Good evening. It's beautiful here. It's been snowing all day, lightly. Om Ajnanatimidandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesha Tarine Akanda Mandala Akaram Yena Vyaptam Characharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Yogena Chitasya Padena Vacham Malam Sharirasya Chavaidhyakena Yo Apakarot Tam Pravaram Muninam Patanjalim Pranjali Anatosmi Abaho Purusha Akaram Shankar Chakra Asi Dharinam Sahasra Shirsha Shvetam Pranamami Patanjalim Apavitro Pavitro Va Sarvavastha Gatopi Va Ya Smaret Pundarika Ksham Sa Bhayabhyantara Shuchihi. Okay, off we go. So we have a bit to cover and we're going to finish it. So that means staying a bit longer. That's what we'll do. I have a special treat for you this evening. Well, three special treats. We're going to read a little Ramanuja Vedanta Sutra, response to Samkhya, if we have time. But we're definitely going to read a Krishna story, a little one, just 10, 15 verses. Otherwise, all this will be of no avail for me. It will be just stirring the dry ocean of jnana. So we'll read a lovely little story which will mention Samkhya, so that's my excuse. It has the word Samkhya in it, so that will connect to our workshop. And we have the Mayapuris. Have you heard of the Mayapuris? They're my favorite kirtan ensemble. So they'll be joining us this evening for 20 minutes for kirtan. That's so special. So I'm so thrilled about that. And I'll introduce them later on. So we've got some ground to cover. And I believe we're on verse 56. Correct me if I'm wrong. Anybody want to correct that? 56. Okay. Everybody you've all got your Sāṃkhya Kārikās ready to go. This is our last session. And let's do it. So that will be page 50. We did 55. The 56 is at the top of 182.
Edwin, are you recording this?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm recording. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me though, but yeah. So where is this 50? Okay, there it is. The English is page 184. This creation from intellect down to the gross elements, right? First thing that comes out of Prakriti is Buddhi. And then you get through the various stages and you end up with the grossest thing of all, which is the earth element. So down to the gross elements is brought about by Prakriti, the primal nature, pradhana. Why? For the deliverance of each spirit. Remember spirit, this awful word, Purusha, for the deliverance of each Purusha. This is done for another's sake as for itself. Prakriti is not doing it for itself. Prakriti is, after all, inanimate, dead. So therefore, why is it doing all this? It's doing it for the Purusha. Okay, so we have something similar to that in Patanjali. I think it's a very neglected verse. 218. What is it, right? The seer and the seen, that section in Patanjali, right? Why is there suffering? Drashtra Drishayaho. Let's check in on this for a second because the next section is going to resonate with this. right? Patanjali 115, for the wise person, everything is suffering. I think it's the pivotal verse of the Yoga Sutras. And it's the very first verse of the Karikas, because of suffering. Patanjali sticks it in second chapter, verse 15. But for me, this is the beginning of the spiritual journey, as it is for the Buddha and most moksha traditions. It's suffering. Otherwise, why would we even think about yoga? So Patanjali says, well, why is there suffering? We can avoid future suffering, verse 16. But then he says, well, what's the cause of suffering? 17. Well, it's the coming together of the seer and the seen. He just uses different terms, the seer and the seen. You could put in Purusha Prakriti. It's irrelevant. But now verse 18 is the one that's overlapping here. What is the seen? Okay, it's Prakasha, Kriya, Sthiti, Shilam. It's Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. This could have been in the Sāṃkhya Kārikās. It's Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Well, what else is it? It's Bhut, Indriya, Atmakam. It is the senses and the sense objects. If you got your Yoga Sutras, pull it out, 218. Let's make this strong connection here. Take a second, lean back, stretch out your arm, grab your Yoga Sutras, 218. So what is it? It's, well, on the metaphysical deep level, it's Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, the seen. He's talking about the seen, 218. Okay, it's Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas at its most fundamental level. It's irreducible level. If you break it down, gross elements into subtle elements into Ahamkara into Buddhi. Is there a stop sign? Yes. What's that? The three gunas themselves. So the scene is Prakasha, Kriya, Sthiti. Prakasha is light, that's Sattva. Kriya is action, Rajas. Sthiti is stability. Shilam, it has that nature. Fine. Well, another way of thinking about it is Bhut, Indriya, Atmakam. It's made of the senses and the sense objects. Because everything is out there as a sense object. And our entire body and cognitive mechanisms are the indriyas. They're instruments. So Prakriti is nothing other than the objects of perception and the instruments of perception. Sense objects, trees, tables, chairs, mountains, planets, oceans, universes, tulips in the spring, that's all sense objects. And the instruments, senses and cognitive faculties. Okay, so that's the second thing. Why is it there? Here's what I want to stress now for the next verses. It's there for Bhoga or Apavarga. Why is it there? To give us Bhoga experience, sensual experience, or Apavarga liberation. It has no other function. It's dead. It's not there. It's like an instrument, a spoon or a fork. It's not there for itself. It's there to be used by someone else. So the instruments are there to be used. Prakriti is inanimate. It has no raison d'etre for itself. It is there to serve the purposes of another. Purusha artha. It is the artha for the purpose of the Purusha. Okay, so keep that there. And now we'll go back to the Karikas. So with that said, I lost my place, and 56 is there. So this creation, from intellect down to the gross elements, the whole 25, the chart with the 25 things in it, or 23, depending, 24, is brought about by Prakriti, the primal nature. Why? For the deliverance of each spirit. Same as 218. It's there for Bhoga or Apavarga. This is done for another's sake. It's not done for itself. Prakriti is acting for another. Let's go to the Bhasha. The object of the activity of the nature, Prakriti, is next explained. The word iti esha in the Sanskrit, all of this, iti esha refers to all of the previous 50 verses, iti esha, all of this. The word iti esha implies conclusiveness and limitation. In other words, all that's gone before in this Karikas, with the sense, in this way, all that has been hitherto described. So he's just explaining the word iti esha. So all this work we did, six sessions, so all of that hard work we did, all the lists and the 60s and the 12s and all right, all of that, Prakriti Krito means in the instrumentality of the activity of the nature, means that all of this is stuff going on in nature. This is all kriti, activities of nature. This effort of Prakriti, this effort to bring about this whole creation, beginning from Mahat, Buddhi, down to the gross elements. That's whole production. That is the evolution of intellect from the Prakriti, of ego from intellect, of the subtle elements and the 11 organs from ego, of the 5 gross elements from the subtle elements. All this grand production, all the lists, all the information, what is it all about? Is really for the liberation of each Purusha. I'm not going to say spirit anymore, Purusha. And I'm not going to say nature anymore. I'm going to say Prakriti, okay? Where it says nature, I'm going to say Prakriti, Prakriti Purusha. This evolution is affected, all of this. Why does it exist? Why is there evolution? Is affected for the liberation of each individual Purusha, which belongs to the divine human or subhuman creations, right? So Purushas can be born in the celestial realms, in the human realms, or the lower realms. We had a verse on that previously. How is it affected? How does this take place? It is done for another's sake. Prakriti does this for Purusha, not for itself. Although the effort is for the benefit of another, yet it seems as if it were for itself. It seems as if Prakriti is doing all this for itself. It seems like the body is eating, the eyes are seeing, but that's just Prakriti. Prakriti is not doing it for itself. It's doing it for the experiencer, which is Purusha. But it seems like this body is alive. It seems that we're engaging our senses. As for example, a person neglecting his own objects and business carries on those of his friend. So does Prakriti. Prakriti does it for Purusha. He gives an example. Someone gives up his own or her own activity for someone else. The Purusha makes no return to Prakriti. Purusha doesn't give anything to Prakriti. It's just pure consciousness. There's no return. There's no reciprocation. It's just pure consciousness. So it makes no return. Prati upakari. All this is as if it were for itself, not actually for itself. Prakriti is not doing this. It seems like it's doing. It seems like that, that my senses are indulging in food and I'm watching things and hearing things. So it seems like that Prakriti is doing it for itself, but no, it's really doing it all for Purusha. Not actually for itself, but really for the sake of another's benefit. That other is Purusha. This benefit, what is this benefit? What is this that Prakriti is doing for Purusha? What is it? Bhoga apavarga, Patanjali just said in 2:18. He's going to say this thing. Same thing. This benefit is the apprehension of the objects of senses. That's bhoga, like sound and the rest. It's bhoga. And what else? Upavarga, and the knowledge of the distinctiveness between the gunas of the nature and Purusha. So Prakriti either gives us bhoga or apavarga. Patanjali says it in 2 words. Prakriti is there to give us sense indulgence until we realize we're suffering. And then when we realize it's illusory, that there is no happiness to be found. And the same Prakriti gives us liberation. How so? Because the mind seeks liberation. The mind is Prakriti. Who's nirodhering the mind in yoga? Not Purusha. The mind is nirodhering itself. The mind is nirodhering itself. The mind is deconstructing itself. It's eliminating itself. It's committing existential suicide, kind of. It's recognizing I'm suffering, and what's the cause of suffering is within me. My illusions and my desires and my kleshas, and so it nirodhas itself. Okay. So what is this benefit? This benefit is the apprehension of the objects of senses, and we just did that. The activity of Prakriti is for this purpose. In all the 3 worlds, celestial, human, and lower worlds, the Purushas are to be provided with the objects of sense like sound and the rest, right? The celestials are no different. They just have better sense objects and better sense instruments. So they have a far higher quality of bhoga. That's all. So, but ultimately it's just objects of sense and the rest. And at the end, the Purushas are to be provided with liberation. What end? When we realize we're suffering, first verse. When there arises the why am I suffering, then there arises the desire to know why. Then Sāṃkhya says, okay, now you're ready for instruction. As it is said, the Prakriti is like a jar, Having fulfilled the purpose of the Purusha, it ceases. It's like a jar in India in the old days. Still now, you go to buy a drink and they put it in a clay pot. And then you drink, and then you throw the pot into the ground. It breaks and it goes back into dust. A clay pot. So it's like a jar. Having fulfilled the purpose, it ceases. You finish, you had your drink, and you throw the jar away. Prakriti is like that. When it's finished, its purpose is to provide bhoga or apavarga. As long as you want bhoga, keep churning around samsara. Don't whine about suffering. Don't say, why am I suffering? We're suffering because we're clinging to our kleshas. And the same Prakriti gives us knowledge and gives us the means to attain liberation. That's 56. 57, page 186. Just as the non-intelligent milk functions for the nourishment of the calf, so does the Prakriti, the primal nature, function for the deliverance of the spirit. Now, when we read Vedanta, Ramanuja is going to criticize this. Ramanuja is going to say you have to have an Ishvara, but we'll save that for the end of the workshop. Samkhya doesn't have an Ishvara. It just says, look, we don't need an Ishvara to make Prakriti move. Vedanta is going to say, what makes Prakriti, what stirs it? Aristotle's prime mover. How does it move in the first place? At the end of a cosmic cycle, what reactivates it? There needs to be some outside force. Aristotle figured that out right in the beginning, and so that was his prime mover. But Samkhya says, no, we don't need a prime mover. Look, just like when a calf approaches a cow, the udders start to milk automatically. They shed milk. It's just nature. You don't need to say that you deposit some intelligent entity that sort of provokes the udders. The udders just naturally, by the approaching calf, the udders, the mother cow lactates spontaneously. So just as and it's non-intelligent, we don't have to posit an intelligent Ishvara. Okay, that's some Samkhya traditions. Just as the non-intelligent, right, because there needs to, the Ishvaravadins, Ishvara is an intelligent being. They're going to say there needs to be intelligence behind all this, kind of intelligent design, essentially. Just as the non-intelligent milk functions for the nourishment of the calf, so does Prakriti, the primal nature, function for the deliverance of the Purusha. So just as soon as the Purusha approaches it, Prakriti activates and it produces all of the evolutes, the 25 evolutes, just from the proximity of Purusha. Just as from the proximity of the calf, the cow automatically does stuff, lactates. That's the analogy. Vedantins are not going to be very impressed with that analogy. I'll give you a heads up. Bhasha. One might argue here that the nature, Prakriti, is non-intelligent, while the spirit, chit, achit, intelligent is not good. I would say non-conscious. That Prakriti is non-conscious, while the Purusha is conscious. How can the non-conscious Prakriti act like a conscious principle, thinking, I have to, so now he's making, he's animating Prakriti, he's creating this little speech in the mind of Prakriti. So how can Prakriti act like an intelligent entity, thinking like intelligent entities thinking what? I have to supply the Purusha with the objects of senses, like sound and the rest in all the three worlds. And at the end, I have to secure the spirit's liberation. So he's putting thoughts, he's creating this little sort of, like animating Prakriti. So then the commentary is saying, how can it do that? This is true. But activity and cessation from activity are both observed in non-intelligent things. Right. So in other words, Gaudapada is saying, he's basically paraphrasing the Vedantins. The Vedantins will say, how can Prakriti is non-intelligent? How can it behave like an intelligent person and say, oh, I have to provide sense objects and I have to provide liberation? Surely you need an intelligent entity to think like that. And Gaudapada says, okay, but we see as grass, he says, but we do see examples of non-intelligent things acting. And now he's going to give the examples. As grass and water consumed by the cow become transformed into milk and nourish the calf, and as these cease to function after the nourishment of the calf, so does nature. right? Nature gives bhoga and apavarga, just like the cow gives milk and then stops giving milk. We don't need to posit intelligence. It's automatic. It's just nature of things. So, right, this is non-theistic. Gaudapada is not a theist. In this manner, there is activity in the non-intelligent. A non-intelligent thing can act, just like the udders of a cow act spontaneously. That's his argument. Wait till you see what Ramanuja has to say about that one. Oh, yes. Okay, so that's 50. All good? Do we get it? Are we doing okay? I have to sort of pick up a little, because we do have to finish today. We've got a lot of ground to cover. We're probably going to spill over our 2 hours as it is. But, hopefully you're okay with it. It's going to repeat it. So it should be okay. Right, 58, which would be English 187. Just as people in the world engage in acts to relieve desires, so does the unmanifest, the evolved, Prakriti and Pradhana, engage in action to liberate the spirit. So people act in the world to pursue their desires, and so Prakriti acts but it's doing it for Purusha. It's doing it for somebody else. So what's the Bhashya say? As people being influenced by, that Bhashya is on page 186, as people being influenced by some favorite desire, engage in actions of various kinds, like going and coming for the gratification and fulfillment of that desire, right? I want a cup of coffee, off I go down to Starbucks and buy my coffee, right? So as people do like that, and they stop from their activity when that's accomplished, okay, I had my coffee, now stop, I can desist from that. So the nature too, Prakriti too, active for, what's it active for? It's active for the purpose either of giving bhoga or of liberating the spirit, ceases from its activity after having accomplished its twofold purpose. Bhoga apavarga, in Patanjali's word, the giving of these sense pleasures and sense objects on the one hand and liberation on the other. Oh, he lists it here. Having accomplished this twofold purpose of the Purusha. One, what's the twofold? One, the enjoyment of the objects of senses like sound and the rest, listening to nice Beethoven, nice music. That's one, right? Nice food, nice smells, nice sensations. That's one purpose. What's the other? The other, should be cognition of the difference between the Purusha and the Gunas. That's the other. Viveka Kyatir, Patanjali calls it, to see the difference between Prakriti Purusha, the Chit and the Achit. Vedanta says the Sat and the Asat. Okay? So once it's done its job, that's it. Finished. Right? Look at this nice little metaphor. 59, 188. As a dancer, having exhibited herself to the spectators on stage, desist from the dance when it's over, performance is over, stop dancing. So does Prakriti, the primal nature, desist, having exhibited herself to the spirit, Viveka, when the spirit sees, oh, hang on, you're not me, you're different. So their show's over. Prakriti desists. It's like the end of a spectacle. Okay? Nice little metaphor. Bhashya. Moreover, right, Gaudapada says, as a dancer, having exhibited her performances on the stage in dramatic representations, rendered interesting by the display of love and other passions. Who remembers the Bhavas? The last class, remember the Bhavas? Go back to Natya Shastra, dramatology. Remember them? They were love, anger, comedy. What were they? Ghastliness, fear, 8 Bhavas. So these are the display of love and other passions, right? These are called the rasas. So that's part of Indian dramatology. So as that is the case, it write dramas. What kind of dramas? In situations drawn from history or traditions, right? What are the dramas? You're going to have Ram Leela or Krishna Leela, right? Indian drama is mostly going to be stories of Krishna or Ram. So these are history, itihasa. Those traditions are called itihasa, right? Thus it was iti-ha-asa, the name for history in Sanskrit is iti-ha-asa. It goes together, 3 words into one, becomes itihasa. Well, what does itihasa mean? Thus it was. This is what happened in the past. So the itihasas are two itihasas in Sanskrit, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Thus it was. This is what took place. So dramas are typically going to be episodes from the itihasa, or tradition, or other tradition, other stories from maybe the Puranas, Shiva, maybe some Shiva. So as that is the case, he's just explaining what a drama. He's giving examples of dramas. And what else? And it's accompanied by music and singing. You're going to have some musicians there, just as you do nowadays in Broadway. So as that, all of that is the case, as the dancer, in one of these performances, desists from acting when her part is finished, play over, well, then the actress stops acting. So in the same way, so the nature, Prakriti, also having exhibited herself to the spirits, having given Purushas an opportunity to enjoy bhoga through infinite births, celestial realms, human realms, tree realms, all, 8,400,000 different species of life. All this great big performance, all these different roles. After it's finished, after the Purusha attains enlightenment, of course, remember, when I say Purusha attain, he also is going to say Purusha attains, but really it's Prakriti. Prakriti, sometimes we say Purusha, realizes this or realizes that. We're using that rhetorically. Really, it's the mind, realization of viveka, vidya, wisdom, knowledge, all of that's going on in the mind, not Purusha is just pure consciousness. We're going to get to a punchline in a minute, which will really make that point. So as that is the case, in the various characters, right? What are the characters? Well, instead of the drama, metaphor of the drama, but it actually in Prakriti, what is the analogy? Well, the intellect, ego, the rudiments. I have no idea what that is. These senses and the elements. What are the rudiments? Dvidvidham purusha antara upalabdhi lakshanam. It doesn't matter. So after that, so this is from acting. Purusha attains svarupavastanam, show over. Prakriti ceases to act. Okay, all good. 59. Right, where are we? 60. That will be on page 190. Generous nature, upakarin, gives everything. What do you want? You want to fly? Here, take a bird body. You want to swim? Here, take a fish body. You want to, whatever you want, 8,400,000 bodies. Take a pick. There's a wardrobe with 8,400,000. Imagine having a wardrobe, 8,400,000 clothes inside. That's pretty generous. Someone gives you, right? A wardrobe with 8,400,000. That'd be hard. Even the Empress of Russia in the 17th century couldn't have matched that. So, generous nature. Endowed with qualities, saguna, gunavak, the qualities, the guna, the constituents, whenever he says qualities and constituents, it's the gunas. The generous nature does by manifold means, about 8,400,000 manifold means, accomplish without benefit to herself. She's not doing it for herself. She's dead. She's inanimate. It's Prakriti. She's doing it for Purusha. So that's why she's generous. You do all of this for somebody else. So he's using the language of generosity, accomplished without benefit to herself. So what's she doing it there for? The purpose for the ungrateful spirit. Well, ungrateful is not the best translation. It's anupakari, doesn't give anything back. Prakriti is doing all of this for Purusha. What's Purusha giving back? Nothing. It's just consciousness. She's sitting there experiencing. So not a good deal. Or if you imagine you give somebody all of this stuff and he just sits there and just passively doesn't even say thank you. So it's ungrateful. Isn't it fun? Don't let me down. I said in the email it's going to be fun, but please don't let me down. Don't crush my pitch, the pitch I made in the email. So the ungrateful spirit, devoid as he is of qualities, the spirit doesn't have any qualities, unless you want to say Satchit Ananda are qualities. Vedanta, some Vedantins might say that. Okay, well, let's go to the Bhasha, page 189. How and what is the cause of this cessation of the activity is next described. What causes the cessation of the activity of property, this whole samsara? By manifold means, infinite variegatedness. Everything is different. One snowflake completely distinct from another. Here we are snowing. Infinite, not one is identical to the other. Not one leaf is identical to the other. Manifold means does the nature, property, benefit the Purusha, which confers no benefit in return. Do nothing, just being aware, just saying, okay, thank you very much. How? The Prakriti benefits the spirit in various ways by transforming herself into divine, human, and subhuman forms. 8,400,000 species of each, but every member of each one of those species is different. So humans is just one of the 8,400,000, but every single human is different from the human next door. So all of these forms, this is what she's doing. What else is she doing? By transforming herself into pleasure, pain, and infatuation, right? Raga, dukkha, whatever, moha. I have to look at the Sanskrit. Sukha, dukkha, moha. Sukha, dukkha, moha. You know sukha, dukkha. Moha, that's a Gita term. So all of this, and by transforming herself, what else does she transform herself into for this very generous Prakriti? Even though she gets nothing back from Purusha, what else does she do? Transforming herself into the objects of senses, like what? Like sound and the rest, the other five, the other four. In this way, having by various means exhibited herself to the spirit and shown that I am one, thou art another. Now, this is when it gives liberation. What's liberation? Viveka. Viveka means discrimination. With discrimination, what does the word discrimination mean? What to recognize the difference between one thing and another. Like racial discrimination or gender discrimination. Well, what's spiritual discrimination then? This is Purusha, that's Prakriti. Patanjali. When does it come to an end? Viveka Kyatir. Viveka Kyatir. Why? Viveka Kyatir. Where is it? Viveka Kyatir aviplavaha na upaya, the means is Viveka. It's exactly the same. He doesn't use the word, he does use the word Viveka actually, quite a few times. So, so in this manner, the nature, so what is that Viveka? I am one, thou art another. I'm Prakriti, you're Purusha, we're different. I'm Asat, you're Sat. I'm Achit, you're Chit. Dualism, classic. I am one, thou art another. Having done this, having given this viveka, this knowledge, this jnana, vidya, all the same, jnana, vidya, viveka, having done this, the nature desists. Oh, show over. I've got nothing else, nothing left to do. In this manner, the Prakriti accomplishes the purpose of the spirit, the Purushartha. Patanjali uses the term Purushartha. Why do you do Kriya Yogi, Samadhi Bhavana Arthas? No, he doesn't say Purushartha. All right. He says, Samadhi Bhavana Arthascha. What else does he say? Teshatanu Artha. Okay, forget that. In this manner, Prakriti accomplishes the purpose of the Purusha without any benefit to herself. As a generous man or woman gives assistance to all and wants nothing in return from himself or herself, in the same way, even so, meaning in the same way, Prakriti accomplishes the purpose, the artha of the Purusha without any return. Okay? 61. The English is on page 193. Nothing, says Ishvara Krishna, in my opinion, is more bashful. The Sanskrit is sukumara, like a young girl who's shy and a little bit shy and bashful. I would say bashful. Oh, yeah, he says bashful. Okay. Nothing in sukumara, a young girl. Nothing in my opinion, because Prakriti is feminine, remember? So nothing in my opinion is more bashful than Prakriti, the pradhana, who once aware of I have been seen, does not again expose herself to the gaze of the spirit. Once she has exposed herself as being different from the Purusha, which is wisdom, then she does not again expose herself to the gaze of the spirit. There's no more, prachaya anupasya. What's verse 4 of Patanjali? Verse 3, what's the goal of yoga? Tada drashtu swarupe vastanam. And if you're not in a swarupa state, verse Sutra 4, vritti sarupyam, you absorbed it, beholding the vrittis. Same thing, the gaze, the seer. Let's read the Bhashya, 191. It has been said, verse 59, that having manifested herself, Prakriti desists. Next is explained what she does after having desisted, what she's going to do. There is nothing in the world more soft, gentle, and modest. He's added all that in. It's just Sukumara. He's added 3 words for one. There's nothing in the world more soft, gentle, and modest than Prakriti. Such is my opinion. Because Ishvara Krishna says that. This is my opinion. Because such an idea arises for the benefit of another. The idea of liberation arises for the Purusha. Why? Since Prakriti says to herself, I've been seen by this Purusha. So I guess the analogy is of a young girl who's been seen, going back in a traditional culture, a young girl is not supposed to be seen, maybe she's bathing or something. So you get bashful, right? So something like that. So we have to project this metaphor back into a traditional culture. So I have been seen by this Purusha. Thinking so, she does not present herself to the view of the Purusha. She becomes invisible to the Purusha, like a bashful young girl who has been seen, maybe, taking a bath or something. Now is explained the nature of this term, being more modest. Okay, now he gets into this whole metaphysical thing. He's explaining this. I don't know what the heck this has got to do with being more modest, but let's go with it. Maybe it'll be explained later on. Some declare God to be the cause. Ishvara. Who declares that? Vedanta and other Samkhya traditions and yoga, except yoga doesn't talk about Ishvara in terms of creation. It just talks about Ishvara in terms of the object of meditation in the sound Om. And you fix your mind on Om by doing japa on the sound Om, tasya vachaka pranava hata japa tadartha bhavanam. And then later on, Ishvara can give samadhi. Ishvara pranidhana, samadhi siddhya. So Patanjali is not interested in creation. Samkhya does all that work. Patanjali is interested only in the actual meditative process. So some say, now we remember this is the opposing point of view. Have we talked about the opposing point of view? Have we talked about the Purva Paksha? Purva Paksha. Whenever you read some say, you're going to have there's going to be some opposing point of view that he's going to then refute. So and then we're going to have Ramanuja. He's going to say, all right, yeah, I'm one of them. I say that. Why, hurry up to the workshop. I want to have my say. See, some say, that was him right there, Ramanuja. So some declare God to be the cause. Right? And this is what they say. Now he's paraphrasing these people who the theists. So what do they think? They think like this. This ignorant creature, helpless with regard to his own pleasure and pain, goes to heaven or hell as impelled by God. So some say like that, he says. Others advocate spontaneity, just, svabhava, it's just the nature of things. Things spontaneously happen, not some intelligent agent, cause, some God. Others just say, Buddhists would say this, svabhava. Buddhists are not theists. So they would say it's just the nature of the elements to come together in interdependent ways. So some say spontaneity, svabhava. It's a big term in Buddhism. Svabhava is the cause. And what do they say? How do they say? And he's going to paraphrase them. By whom are the swans created white? And by whom the peacocks of many colors? Obviously, they're so naturally, spontaneously. We don't need a God. It's just the nature of things, right? So if you're a materialist, that's what you think. If you're a physicalist, you think everything's atoms and electrons and strings and whatever. It's just the way it is, period. So others say that. So that's two Purva Pakshas. And so now, once you've given the Purva Paksha, the opposing point of view, then you have to give the opinion of your school. So in this connection, the teachers of Samkhya say, what do the teachers of Samkhya say? How can beings endowed with qualities proceed from Ishvara, who is devoid of qualities? The world is full of qualities. But if Ishvara has no qualities, how can whatever's in the effect has to be in the cause? If the sunlight is hot, then the cause must be hot, the sun. Let's say you never saw the sun. Let's say the sun was always hidden by a cloud, or you lived up in somewhere where you never saw the sun, but you had light and you saw, oh, the light is hot and luminous. Whatever it comes from, because let's say you can't see the sun, you at least you can say this much. Well, if the light is hot and luminous, then the cause must be hot and luminous. Therefore, whatever its causes must be hot and luminous. He's using this cause and effect argument. If this world is full of qualities, how can the cause be without qualities? You know what Ramanuja is going to say? He's going to say, yeah, we agree. Ishvara has all qualities. Ishvara is full of qualities, beautiful, beauty, omnipotence, omniscience, omni-everything, omni-this, omni-that, everything. So, but anyway, this is his argument. How can beings who endowed with qualities proceed from Ishvara, who is devoid of qualities? Well, who said Ishvara was devoid of qualities? That's his version of Ishvara. That's not what Vaishnavas and Shaivites would say. But let's keep going. Or what else would they? What else? How from the spirit even, or can they come from Purusha then? Let's forget about Ishvara. Can they come from Purusha? Same problem. How can they come from the spirit even, who is also devoid of qualities? So how can the variegatedness of this world come either from Ishvara or from Atman, since they have no qualities? So how do you account for the qualities in nature then? It's like saying the sun is cold, but the sunlight is hot. Well, if the sun is cold, where did the heat come from in the sunlight then? It must have come from somewhere else if it didn't come from the sun. If you're going to say the sun is a block of ice, if you're going to say the cause of the sunlight is a block of ice and freezing cold, but the sunlight's hot, well, where did the heat come from then? It didn't come from the block of ice. It must have come from somewhere else. And now you have to posit another cause. Now you're going to have to say, well, there's a second God then, a second source. That's the argument. It makes sense. The cause-effect ontology. Therefore, the causality of nature stands to reason. Therefore, he's saying, we Samkhya say, Prakriti has the three gunas, and therefore it can produce a world full of qualities, because Prakriti itself has three qualities, like three colors, which, okay, it's three colors, but you can make an infinity of colors. At least it has qualities that mix together, make an infinity variety, an infinitude of qualities. So he's saying, we Samkhya, you Ishvara people have a problem here. Of course, not necessarily, but his version of his rendition of Ishvara metaphysics. Do you get it? Is everybody doing okay? Do you get the arguments? Okay. Therefore, the causality of Prakriti stands to reason. Thus, from white threads, white cloth is produced. If you have a white cloth, you can't say if you have a nice white cloth, well, you can't say the threads have no color. If the cloth is white, well, the threads must have been white. You must have used white threads to make a white cloth. So if the world is full of variegatedness, how can you say the world is full of variegatedness and then say Ishvara has no quality? The world is full of qualities and then say Ishvara has no qualities. It's like saying a white cloth is made from a colorless cloth. That's the argument. He's just repeating it with a metaphor. So from white threads, white cloth is produced. From black threads, black cloth only. You can't make something else. The effect can only be what's in the cause. If you got black thread, you can't have a red cloth. The effect is the product of the cause. So if the effect is full of variegatedness, then the cause must be full of variegatedness. So therefore, the Samkhya would say, and Prakriti has these three gunas, which combined together produce infinite variegatedness. The real Ishvara people, Vaishnavas and Shaivas, are going to say, what are you talking about? Ishvara has no qualities. Ishvara has infinite qualities. But we'll save that for another day. So in the same way, from white threads, white cloth produced, black threads, black cloth, so it is known that the three worlds endowed with three qualities. Everything is the three gunas. The celestial realms are the three gunas. This book is the three gunas. My spectacles are three gunas. My hand is three gunas. The tree is three gunas. The snow is three gunas. Just different combination of the gunas. Just as in the same way as this is a different color from this, because a different combination of red, yellow, and blue. And this red is a little bit different from this red. This has got more blue in it. And I can have an infinite variety of colors. So I just need three to make an infinity. So you just need sattva, rajas, and tamas to make the infinity of the property that we perceive. Infinity of forms and shape and manifestations. All good? So Ishvara, and he goes on about Ishvara. Ishvara is without qualities, says who? Says him. Not Ramanuja's not going to say that. Therefore, the production of the worlds endowed with qualities from Ishvara is not logical. He would be right if Ishvara was without qualities. Yeah, then he would have a point. He'd say, how can something without qualities produce a world full of qualities? Same as how could a cold sun produce hot sunlight? Fair enough. But what if we challenge him and say, hang on a minute, mate, who says Ishvara is without qualities? Ha 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 ha. And we'll get to that in another workshop. So therefore, the production of the worlds endowed with qualities for him is not logical. Read that. This same reason explains why the spirit cannot be the cause. For the same logic, you can't say Purusha is the cause of the variegatedness, because it's the same problem. It doesn't have any qualities. According to some, now another Purva-paksha, another point of view. So he's had two so far. The theists who say Ishvara is the cause. The second category, those who say it's just nature itself, spontaneity, it's just the nature of things. Now a third group of opposing points of view, the third opposing point of view. Well, some say, according to some, time is the cause. Movement. And so now he gives a little quote. It is said, so he's quoting one of these people who believes time is the cause. Time rears the beings. Time withdraws the world. Time watches when all sleep. Time is not to be surpassed. That's what the time people say. Time is the ultimate cause. To this, what would the Samkhya say to that? How would they respond to that position? To this, the Samkhyas would say, there are only three categories: manifest, unmanifest, and the knower, right? Purusha, Prakriti, Pradhana. Purusha is pure consciousness, Prakriti is before creation, and Pradhana is evolved Prakriti. Time is also included under these. Time, he's saying time is just Prakriti moving. It's not something separate. He's saying we Samkhyas would say you don't need to posit that time as some kind of other entity, some other sort of force that moves things. No, it is nothing other than the movement of Prakriti itself. That's what we say. Time is manifest. So since the nature is the cause of everything, producer, maker of everything, it must be the cause of time also. Actually, Samkhya would say time is nothing other than movement. And we apply labels like a day, a year, based on movement, right? The earth spins on its axis. We call that a day, goes around the sun, call that whatever, a year. Our bodies get old. We call that a lifespan. Civilization rise and falls. We call that whatever we want to call that, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. It's just movement. Spontaneity is also included here. He's saying those that say that things are spontaneous, he said, well, yeah, we can accommodate that. They're not going to accommodate Ishvara, though. Oh, no. They'll accommodate time and spontaneity. We don't want Ishvara. We don't want Ishvara around here. So, so spontaneity is also, the nature of things, the svabhava, is also included here. So they get an invitation. The time contingent philosophers, yeah, you can be, you can play with us, and the spontaneous people posit spontaneity. Yeah, we can accommodate you. You Ishvravadins, out. We're not going to let you in. We're not going to let you in the party. All right. So spontaneity is also included here. Therefore, neither time nor spontaneity is the cause. They're just part of the functioning of Prakriti. Prakriti moves, we call it time. Things evolve, we think of it as spontaneous. It's all included in Prakriti. Just don't bring Ishvara into it. The Prakriti, therefore, is the cause And it has no other cause. It doesn't have a cause. Krishna's going to say in the Gita, this is my Prakriti. I'm the cause of Prakriti. Devi hi esha guna mai mama. Mama maya duratyaya. These are gunas are mine. They're my Shakti. Devi hi esha guna mai. These divine gunas. Mama maya. This is my Maya. Duratyaya. So, but not Gaudapada. He didn't like that. So there we have it. The nature cannot be done. Therefore, it is my opinion, says Gaudapada, that there is no cause. Well, he's paraphrasing Ishvara Krishna. There's no cause more gentle, more enjoyable than Prakriti, such as Ishvara and the rest. No, there's no other cause, such as Ishvara and the rest. He must have gone to Sunday school and got whacked around the ear by some pundit, and now he hates Ishvara. So 62. Verily, now here's the thing. How about this one? Verily, no Purusha is bound in reality, nor released, nor transmigrates. It's Prakriti, the primeval nature alone, abiding in manifold forms, that is bound, is released, and migrates. How about that for shocker? Purusha doesn't do anything, it's just pure awareness. So who's transmigrating, who's getting liberated? Prakriti. Prakriti's transmigrating. Prakriti is changing forms from one body to another, to another, to another. Prakriti nirodhas itself and gets itself out of the way in Patanjali and yoga, or deconstructs itself in Samkhya yoga. Purusha does nothing. It's never bound. It's never released. What are you going to do with that one? Put that in your pipe and smoke it, as the Brits would say. That's a bit of a tamasic metaphor, sorry. So again, verily, in truth, verily meaning in truth, right? What's the Sanskrit? Tasman na badyate, na, where are we? Na api muchyate, na api sansarati, na. Kaschit, no one is bound, no one is freed, no one. So what's going on then? It's Prakriti that's doing all of this. So Bhasha, it is the practice in this world, in conventional, it's our conventional speech. It's convention in the world to say that the Purusha is liberated, the Purusha transmigrates. To this, the reply is as follows. So fine, that we conventionally we might say stuff like that. The Purusha's, in Maya, the Purusha is getting liberated, the Purusha is transmigrating. He says that's conventional practice. But really, what's actually going on? That's just conventionality. For that reason, Purusha is not bound, nor liberated, nor does it migrate, because it is Prakriti alone, assuming manifold forms, such as divine, human, and subhuman forms. What else is Prakriti? In the character of intellect, ego, and the rudiments. I guess, you know what the rudiments are? The instruments. That's his word of talking about the indriyas. The rudiments. Egotism, the indriyas, senses. Oh, there's the senses. Anyway, whatever. And gross elements. Oh, that's Prakriti. It's all that is bound, is liberated and migrates. But the Purusha is in its own nature, svabhava. It's liberated and all-pervading. It's infinite. It's infinite in its real nature. Then, how can it migrate if it's infinite? We can pick holes in this, by the way. The opponents of Samkhya are gonna pull this apart. But we're just reading the Karikas. For migration, what's migration? It's for the purpose of obtaining something not previously obtained. When we migrate with desires, right? Desires put us into some, desire is something we haven't obtained. So then we act and then we get further births. The phrases, therefore, these language that we use, what language? The spirit is bound, the spirit is liberated, the spirit migrates, etc. This kind of talk, that Purusha is bound, is liberated, it transmigrates, originate in ignorance. of the nature of migration. Who's migrating? Purusha is just being. It's just sat. It's not doing anything. It's not thinking. It's not acting. It's not moving. It can't. It's changeless. If something is eternal, it's changeless. So if it's changeless, it can't move. It can't do anything. According to Samkhya, not according to all Indian schools. So according to Samkhya, when we talk this way, the Purusha is trapped, it's liberated, it's ignorance. The learned people don't talk like that, is what he's implying. So there, where are we? By proper discrimination, viveka, between Purusha and Prakriti, the real character of Purusha is manifest. But it's manifest in Prakriti. Purusha is not realizing its own nature, it's not doing anything, it hasn't changed. It's not all of a sudden, but boom, having a eureka moment, an epiphany. It is what it is, changeless, pure, unchanging consciousness. Nothing happens to it. It's been that all along. Tricky stuff, this. If one were to say, okay, as a result of this manifestation of its true nature, this Purusha becomes single, kevalya. Kevala means single, liberated, mukta, and established in its own nature, svarupa. By the way, let me read you Gita here. This idea that it's just Prakriti doing everything. I'm going to just read you a quick verse from chapter 5 of the Gita. So, chapter 5 of the Gita, verse 8 to 9, the learned person, which here would be a tattvavit, a knower of the tattvas. Gita's using the same, the tattvas are, a tattva is, remember the thatness, the that's. What are the that's? Intellect, ego, the 5 karmindriyas, the 5 gyanindriyas, the subtle elements, the gross elements, those are all that's, the things out there, the things that Purusha is aware of. So everything external to Purusha is a tat, is that. So the tattvas are 25. So Gita says the tattva vidya, the one who has vidya is a tattva vit. The learned person who engages in yoga thinks, I do nothing at all. Such a person knows, the mind of such a person, not Purusha. Wisdom is in the mind. All tricky, this, isn't it? Such a person knows that when seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, going about, sleeping, breathing, talking, eliminating, grasping, and opening and closing the eyes, such a person knows only the senses are engaged with their sense objects. It's just the gunas acting in the gunas. Same. Different phraseology. So if one were to say in this matter, so if one were to say, like someone, an opposing point of view, if the spirit is not bound, then it's not liberated also. So he's saying, well, if someone could say this, well, if it was never bound, then it could never be liberated, because only someone that's bound is going to be liberated. So if you say that it was never bound, then you're also implicitly saying that it can never be liberated. If one were to say that, to this the reply is, right? Remember, all through Indian philosophy, always have opposing points of view weaved through the commentaries. They're always engaging their opponents. This makes Indian philosophy non-dogmatic, interactive, constantly cross-fertilizing, responding to critiques. Later generations have to modify their positions to respond to critiques that have emerged from the previous commentator to the next commentator. This is a very living tradition. So if one were to say that, to this the reply is, it isn't Prakriti alone that really binds or liberates herself. For everywhere, the subtle body, endowed with the subtle elements and the threefold internal organs, right? Subtle elements and the 3 organs, intelligent, we know what these are. It is bound by the triple bondage. What is the triple bondage? He who is bound by the bonds of nature, by the bonds of nature's products, or by the bonds of work, is not liberated by anything else except knowledge. It doesn't really answer the question, actually. It just sort of says, all of this is going on in Prakriti. that subtle body is affected by dharma and adharma. Not so. Other schools are going to object to this. Nyaya, we did a workshop last weekend on the Nyaya Sutras, defense of the Atman. And they would say dharma are qualities of the soul. Anyway, let's keep reading. We've got enough to do without bringing in Nyaya. Are we doing okay? Is this raising all kinds of questions in your mind? Like, what? Wait, what did you just say? Verse, think about this, ponder this. You may have, if you disapprove, they'll be in the company of other schools who will agree with you, and they will also disagree with this. This is Samkhya 63, page 196. By 7 forms, remember the 8 bhavas? Dharma, Vairagya, Jnana, and Aishvarya, and the opposites, Adharma, Ajnana, Anishvarya, and what's the other? Vairagya, and what's the other one? Raga. By 7 of those, the Prakriti binds herself, by herself. By Dharma, Adharma, by Vairagya, Raga, by Aishvarya, Aishvarya, and by Ajnana. 7. What's the missing one? Is Jnana. By 7, she binds herself. By 1, that's the Jnana, she releases herself for the deliverance of the Purusha. Okay, so the Jnana is what we need. Patanjali calls it, you can call it Vidya. Patanjali calls it Vidya, he also calls it Viveka. Bhasha. How is it that the nature is bound? The nature is liberated, the nature migrates. This is explained with 7 forms. These 7s are Dharma, Vairagya, Aishvarya, and then Adharma, Ajnana, Raga, and Nir Aishvarya. These are the 7 forms of the Prakriti, the nature. With these, nature binds herself by herself, because they're all expressions of Prakriti. The same Prakriti, with a view to accomplishing the purpose of the Purusha, liberates herself from the 8th. One of those form is bhava. Remember the word bhava. Which bhava? Jnana. How did the whole text start? Why am I suffering? How do we solve suffering? Knowledge of the difference between Purusha and the manifest and the unmanifest, the Vyakta and the Avyakta. 62, 63, did that one. 64, where is it? Bottom of page 197. So, through a repeated study, what does Patanjali call it? Svadhyaya, Abhyasa. What is Abhyasa? Nirantarya, no interruption, repeated. Remember the Abhyasa verses of Patanjali? What is Abhyasa? Abhyasa is Vairagya. What is it? Tat Nirodha Abhyasa. Abhyasa is, Nirodha is Abhyasa and Vairagya. And what is Abhyasa? It is Yatna. It's the effort. Tatra stito Yatna. And it is Dirghakala, Nirantarya, Satkara, no interruptions, repeated, Nirantarya, for a long time. Okay, so the same sort of thing here. Where are we? We're on verse at the bottom there. So through a repeated study, this is where it's different from yoga. In yoga, Svadhyaya is there preliminarily. But to attain liberation, you have to Nirodha, all of that eventually. You Nirodha, study, when you're in a state of Chitta Vritti Nirodha, your mind is not doing anything. It's not Svadhyaya-ing, it's not studying, it's not Ishvara Pranidhana-ing, it's not tapasing, it's not doing that yama, it's not yama-ing and niyama-ing or doing any of that in the ultimate. So all of those things are contributory, they're angas, but grand finale, samadhi, complete and utter cessation. That's the yoga. That's where it differs from Samkhya. Everything is the same. Metaphysics is the same. Purusha, Prakriti, Avyakta, all of these lists. Patanjali says, thank God somebody wrote the list. I didn't have to do that. right? Ishvara Krishna, thank you very much. Thank you, my God. Thanks, thank God we have a mathematician in the Sangha, right? He took care of everything the same, metaphysics. Where do they differ? Ishvara Krishna is going to say this, the knowledge, which is an active kind of constantly thinking of the differences, constantly, this is Jnana Yoga. Not Nirodha, but only keeping one kind of type of vritti in the mind, constantly vrittying about these truths, about the lists, about seeing nature in a certain way. So that's the path of Jnana Yoga. It's not a Nirodha path. Patanjali accepts all of that, but rather than sort of, for him, liberation is attained by, at the end of the day, you have to Nirodha even Jnana, even Vidya, even Viveka. But the grand finale is the same. Ultimately, Purusha Svarupe Vastanam. But the methods are different. Metaphysics is the same. The methods are the same in terms of the angas and all of that. But the ultimate practice for Patanjali is total and utter cessation of everything, whereas Ishvara Krishna Samkhya would say, no, would not, maybe, I don't think they would disagree with that, but they're promoting that you can also attain it through actual knowledge itself by constantly cultivating knowledge. There's no talk of Nirodha here. Knowledge causes the Nirodha of Prakriti. You don't have to sit and make a yatna, an effort to fix it, to still the mind. By constantly contemplating the truths, then Prakriti will Nirodha. Like a dancer, finish, she will cease. See the difference? In Patanjali, it's your willpower, you have to do the Nirodhaing, and including even all the great knowledge that Svadhyaya that you've done over the years, all of that eventually has to be Nirodha. Not so here. Here, the grand finale is attained. You're constantly contemplating, you're not Nirodhaing. There's no word, Nirodha doesn't occur here, to my knowledge. No Nirodha, it's the constant keeping of the knowledge in mind that you'll have a eureka moment. Every tradition has a eureka moment. When you're doing Patanjali, there's got to be a eureka moment. Remember, even Patanjali says, the last thought you have is the thought of stilling all thoughts. Virama prachaya. So there's going to be a eureka moment where you go from a completely still consciousness absorbed in a mind that's completely still. And then at some split instant, it's going to be in a svarupa state. There's going to be this pivotal moment, this breakthrough moment. Same in bhakti. You're contemplating Krishna, a form made of your samskaras, intensely contemplating, or Shiva, the form or the mantra, and then there's going to be a pivotal moment, boom, then Krishna appears in his Brahman form, no longer a samskara. Likewise with Jnana Yoga, this tradition, that you're going to be cultivating the knowledge, and then you have this eureka moment, this epiphany, boom. Then you go from a mental state of contemplation to Prakriti desists, show over. And then you're thrust back into your Svarupa. So let's keep reading. Did we do this? So through a repeated study of principles, the tattvas, I think, let's have a look. Yeah, tattva. Remember tattva. Remember that term. Tat is that. It's Indo-European cognate. It sounds the same as that, tut and that, because it's Indo-European. So anything other than consciousness is that. Everything is that. Now, Samkhya says, okay, everything is that, but let's divide the that into 25 different sorts of that's. And then you have this 25 that's. Buddhi, Ahamkara, they're all tattvas. And the instruments the instruments of perception. So these are all tat, and tva is the nature of that. So tat is that. And when you put a tva suffix on a noun in Sanskrit, it means the nature of that thing. So if this is a book, pushtaka, then pushtaka tva means the nature of bookness. So what's the nature of thatness? And Samkhya says, well, we can divide it up into 25, and we can sort of, we can break it down into subtler constituents, but they're all that's. Okay. So through a repeated study of the tattvas, principles means tattvas, that which is not Purusha, the that's, arises that knowledge in the form. What is this jnana? This jnana that liberates us, the eighth bhava. What form does it take? Neither I am, nor is aught mine, nor do I exist. Wrong term, exist. Sanskrit. Neither I am, meaning I'm not this body. Nor is aught mine, aham, mama, nothing belongs to me. Nor do I exist. The Sanskrit is na asmi. Remember asmita? What's asmita in Patanjali? Ego, thinking I'm the body, mind. Na asmi. I'm not that. Asmi means I am in Sanskrit. It's the first person singular of the, the Uttama Purusha, the I. First person singular. Okay, we have first person, second person, third person. I, first person, you, second person, he, she, it, third person, right? If you ever study grammar. So us, so you have singular and plural. In Sanskrit, you have singular, dual, and plural. Right, Laura? Is Laura out there? Where's Laura? Laura, are you there? We have one of us, Rutgers Sanskrit students.
I'm here.
Oh, you didn't sneak off for a cup of tea then. Okay.
No.
We know all about Asmi, don't we?
We do.
Okay. So, what is it? What is this knowledge? It's all very well saying knowledge. What does that mean practically? Well, what does it mean? Neither I am, nor is aught mine, nor Asmi, right? So, na Asmi, na me, na aham, iti. Look at the Sanskrit, right? Evam tattva abhyasa. Look at the Sanskrit. Evam tattva abhyasat. From the practice of this abhyasa, the word. From the practice of the tattvas, what comes from that? From this knowledge, knowing the tattvas. Na asmi. Na me, nothing belongs to me, nothing is mine. Na aham, you've heard aham, ahamkara. Na aham, iti. This is what it means. Knowledge that is pure, shuddha, that leaves nothing to be known, because it's only pure awareness, is free from ignorance and is absolute. And the term here is kevalya, pasha. How is that knowledge produced? In this manner, in the way described above, through a repeated meditation of the 25 principles. You see how it's different from Patanjali? Patanjali, you don't meditate on 25 principles. I mean, it's part of, you have to know what they are. It's part of the sort of road, but you don't get liberation just from knowing the tattvas. You have to nirodha everything, including your knowledge of the tattvas in Patanjali. Here, they're saying you can get liberation from the knowledge of the tattvas. So you remain, your mind is actively contemplating the nature of tattvas. And that's what Jnana Yoga is, by the way. Advaita Vedanta is very similar to that. It's also an active mental practice in the same sort of way. Doesn't stress so much the tattvas, but still stresses the same truth. I am Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Asmi. What's the right Asmi? The wrong Asmi is this body mind. That's not who I am. Well, who am I then? Vedanta would say, contemplate this. Brahman Asmi. Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. That's a good. That's what Advaita Vedanta does. It contemplates the Upanishadic great sayings, the Mahavakyas. Tattvamasi, and you are too. Sarvamidam kalu Brahman. All this is Brahman. Jagat mityam. Brahman satyam. Brahman is real. The world is false. So these Jnana Yoga, both Advaita Vedanta and Samkhya, although they contemplate in a slightly different way, Samkhya is more focused on the tattvas, but they're both active contemplative traditions by which liberation is attained by contemplating the reality, the reality of things, and constantly contemplating, churning, vrittying. But vrittying what? Vrittying those truths. Instead of vrittying desires and illusions, which the rest of us vritty about, Jnana is a very, very focused type of vritty, and so is bhakti. Bhakti, you've written all the time about Bhagavan. It's an active mental practice. It's only Patanjali that's a Nirodha practice. I hope that's clear. So where are we? What are we, 65? No, 63? No, 64. Okay. So through a repeated meditation, bottom of 196, of the 25 principles, viz meaning, that is to say, this is Prakriti, this is Purusha, this is Jnana Yoga. It's a repeated meditation. Highlight that. The method is repeated meditation, not Nirodha. Never Nirodha. Eventually, grand finale, yeah, Prakriti, you, like the dancer, got to sit, but it's Prakriti that desists. Repeated meditation of the 25 principles. And what's the meditation? Well, this is Prakriti, this is Purusha, such is nature, such is the spirit, constantly meditating on the difference between them. Remember the first verse, second verse, we're suffering. Well, how do we solve it? From understanding the difference between Purusha, the Vyakta, and the Avyakta. What else do we contemplate? Well, these are the 5 subtle elements, and these are the organs. This is the gross. It's so boring, meditate. You got to be a bhakta, and you can think about Krishna stealing butter, so much more fun. About walking around for your whole life thinking, this is the subtle element, walking down the high street, oh, a cup of coffee, oh, that is an object of a sense, and that is, these are my instruments perceiving the object. Oh, my God, give us a break. Think about Bhagavan, much more fun. Sorry. I'm going to get sued. Ishwara Krishna is going to sue me. It's like misrepresenting the tradition. All right, where are we? We're almost done, my friends. I keep losing my place. There we are. Okay, up there. So what else do we have to think about? These are the 5 subtle elements, the organs, the gross elements. There arises in the spirit. Okay, from doing that, there arises in the Purusha, and he's being rhetorical here because nothing arises in the Purusha. See how he's slipping? See how he slips without even noticing it? We start talking about Purusha's thinking or Purusha's attention. No, he just said it's all in Prakriti. But nonetheless, he's being rhetorical. So there arises in the spirit, rhetorically, it's not actually in the Purusha, and nothing arises. But there, knowledge does not arise in the Purusha, it arises in the mind. Are we clear about that? Everybody clear about that? So when we have this kind of language, he's just being rhetorical, convenient. Make sure you understand that. So there arises in the Purusha knowledge. What kind of knowledge? I'm not this Prakriti. I do not exist, meaning I'm not this bodily. I don't exist in this physical way. Naught is mine. This body is not mine, since I'm one thing and the body another. There is no ego in the Purusha. So these are one's constantly contemplating these sorts of things. No wonder nobody wants to sit next to him at dinner. It's like, oh, don't sit next to that bloke there. All he talks about are the tattvas and all this is not food and I am not eating and here's my tongue and this food is just a combination of the gunas. You make a nice dinner and he says, oh, this is the combination of the gunas. All right, I'll shut up. So I am one thing and the body another. There is no ego, which is complete. I am free from ego. This knowledge is complete. Without any residue, there's nothing left to be known. It's pure, because there's no doubt. Once you know the Purusha, what doubt is it? Viparyaya, see Viparyaya. Remember the Patanjali, the 5 vrittis, Pratyaksha, Viparyaya, Viparyaya, no error. See, the is a negator. No error, no Viparyaya. Why? Because there remains no doubt. So it's pure. There's no doubt. If it's not pure, if there's doubt, then the knowledge is affected by doubt. So it's a little bit tainted. Until we realize Purusha, we have doubts. We have to, by the way. Don't beat yourself up if you have doubts. A person who hasn't experienced the truth has to have a healthy measure of doubt. Otherwise, you become a fanatic. A fanatic is someone that will not entertain doubt. Until we've experienced, even if however deeply embedded we are on the path and committed and we've given our whole life, there always has to be, you constantly have to be challenging yourself, saying, why do I believe this? What am I doing this for? How did I start this journey? That's very healthy. And the Indian tradition does it by the Purva Paksha. Oh, well, if you say this, okay, that's a doubt. Notice how the doubts are engaged in Indian philosophy. Well, if this one says this, then we say that. So if you have doubts, as long as it doesn't throw you from the path, in my opinion, that's your buddhi is functioning. Because remember, what's the function of intelligence? Is it a man? Is it a post? That's doubt. So, and there has to be doubt until you experience. How can there not be? The Buddhists are saying one thing, the Dvaitas are saying another thing, Vaishnavas are saying another thing. And they're all amazing traditions, rich traditions with their practitioners who have all claimed incredible experiences, but they're not saying the same thing. So there has to be a little bit of doubt. Okay. All right, let's move on. So now 65. Possessed of this knowledge, the pure spirit, remember, it's not the spirit that's possessed with the knowledge. Just pointing that out. It's the mind. Possessed of the knowledge, the pure spirit, as a result of deliverance, once he's freed, mukta, right? Where's the Sanskrit? Tena nivritti prasavam artava shat saptarupa svasta. See the svasta? It's the same as svabhava. Prakriti pashyati purushaha, sees prakriti. Prekshavad, like a spectator. Astitaha. So let's read the translation. Possessed of this knowledge, the pure Purusha, as a result of deliverance, rests like a spectator. Spectator's not in the play. He knows it's different. You've heard the term witness, perhaps, in Vedanta, the witness. Patanjali calls it a seer, the drashtra. Spectator, prekshaka, perceives the prakriti, but perceives it for what it is. Doesn't identify with it. It's not sarupam. Remember, vritti sarupyam itaratra, verse 4 of Patanjali. It's no longer sarupyam. It's no longer absorbed in it. It sees it as a witness. Perceives the prakriti, the primal nature, as one ceased to be productive and has turned back from the 7 forms, has given up mental states, turned back and abides in its own nature. Okay, Basha. What does the spirit do after the rise of this knowledge? As a result of this pure and absolute knowledge, the Purusha perceives Prakriti, prekshakavat, like a spectator. So prekshaka in Sanskrit, vat means like, prekshakavat, like a spectator. If you want to learn Sanskrit, my friends, put the whole course up on my website. Do it. What's the big deal? You think it's some unattainable thing? Just sit down and do it. Memorize it. It'll keep your mind healthy. It's a vast enterprise, but it'll fend off senility, dementia, right? You don't have to be a burden on your family when you're 80. You just keep you memorize Sanskrit or all the paradigms. Don't think it's an unattainable thing. It's a beautiful thing. What else are you going to do with the mind? That nonsense. Just dream about rubbish. So there's a course for free. Just take and, do it. All right. So as a result of this pure and absolute knowledge, the Purusha perceives like a spectator, seated, well composed, as a spectator of a play, perceives a dancing damsel from his own seat. That doesn't identify with it, doesn't think I am the dancer. No, it's just okay. It's just a show. Composed, detached, basically, who stays in himself, seated in his own place. Svarupa. What kind of nature? Nature that ceased to be productive, finished. Once she's been seen, finished, show over. Cease to produce. Form birth after birth after birth after birth after birth after birth, infinite births, which has ceased to produce what? Effects like intellect, ego, subtle body, and the rest. Consequently, which is now reverted, stopped from assuming the 7 forms. Remember, the 1 form is good, knowledge, the other 7. Since she's fulfilled both the purposes of bondage and of release. You want bondage? Okay, then dharma, adharma, the other 7 kick in. If you want bondage, then at least be dharmic, so you get good birth. If you're going to go for Maya, Boga, then at least go for Boga in a dharmic sort of way. So otherwise it's we who suffer. But anyway, so this Purusha perceives Prakriti as free from the 7 forms. The 7 forms, we know what they are, but Dharma and the rest, with which nature binds herself. Really, it's all nature binding herself. 66. 1, the spirit is indifferent, meaning indifferent. What's the Sanskrit? Rangstha iti. Wait a minute, where is it? 66, 65. Where's the Sanskrit? 65. Can't find the Sanskrit. Must be that. Drishtaham iti aparada. Eka. All right. One, Eka, the spirit is indifferent. What is he doing indifferent? Rangasta, Eko, Drishta aham iti aparam iti eka. He's indifferent, meaning, he's content in his own nature. Saying, what is he saying? He's not saying anything. He's being metaphoric. What is the spirit saying? She has been seen by me. It's what Viveka. Seen, I know, and now I understand who she is, and she's not me. It's not me. I'm different. I'm a spectator. The other, Prakriti, desists from evolution, from productivity. What does she say? I have been seen. Uh-oh. My number's up. I'm busted. I've been seen that I'm not. I've all for infinite births. I've superimposed myself on Purusha and made Purusha think that it is these bodies and minds. Now I've been busted. He's seen that he's distinct. So now what? Off she goes. Hereafter, that though there be conjunction, there is no motive for creation. This is another tricky point of Sāṃkhya, because they're both infinite. Purusha's infinite and Prakriti's infinite. So therefore they still coexist. He's saying it here. There is still conjunction, because if one thing is infinite and a second thing is infinite, then they're both co-infinite, aren't they? So then the question arises, well, how can Purusha ever not be aware of Prakriti if they both coexist and co-penetrate and they're coterminous? I'm not going to raise that. I'm not going to pursue that thought here, but that's going to be one of the Achilles heels, perhaps, of Sāṃkhya. Right. Well, let's read the commentary. Rangastha, like a spectator at a play, top of 200. The spirit, the Purusha, the one absolute and the pure, is now indifferent in the sense of not attached. And the other, nature, thinking, I have been seen by him, desists from her activity. Prakriti, that is the only and the chief cause of all the three worlds. That's all Prakriti. There is no other or second nature, because if there were another form, then it would be a variety of genus, meaning it would be, if there was another Prakriti, then there would be like a species. Like in a species, you have different members. So if there were another Prakriti, you would have it doesn't matter. You would have a species, and I don't know why he puts this in here. It's not necessary. Although the Purusha and Prakriti both thus desist, they go their separate ways, even though they co-penetrate, very tricky, that one, yet there is contact between them. Because one's infinite, so is the other infinite. So how can they ever be separate? Both being omnipresent. They're both omnipresent. They're both infinite. He doesn't elaborate on this, but his opponents are going to pick away at this. Yet there is no creation, even though they co-penetrate. They are omnipresent. There's no creation resulting from this contact between them. Why not? Since there's no motive. There's no raga. There's no kleshas. For creation has already served its purpose. Now remember, Patanjali said, well, you know what he says? He says Prakriti ceases to be for that Purusha, but not for everybody else. So somehow, and this gets really tricky, you have one Purusha abiding in its own nature, co-existent and omnipresent with Prakriti, and infinity. This is not a Dvaita Vedanta. The Purushas not merge into one Brahman. No, they're individual. They remain eternally individual. So you have an infinitude of Purushas, all of them omnipresent with Prakriti, the one liberated, abiding in its own nature, and somehow or other, it's really hard to figure out how this is going to work. But remember, Patanjali says that. He says, where does he say it? I put my the page closed. Right. He says she remains for everybody else. Anyway, let me not complicate things. So even though they're both omnipresent, yet there is no creation resulting from this contact between them, since there's no motive. For creation has already served its purpose, its twofold purpose, right? Number one, you want boga, okay, perception of the objects of senses like sound and the rest. That's the first purpose. Boga, Patanjali calls it. What's the second one? The realization of the distinction between the gunas, the attributes, and the Purusha, the Vyakta, the Avyakta. That's Viveka. Okay. Creation, having served both these purposes, gave Boga, infinite lives, Then one fine day, the person says, I'm suffering. Why am I suffering? Oh, okay, reads the Sāṃkhya Kārikā. Oh, I'm suffering because I don't know the tattvas. Okay, let's study the tattvas, study the tattvas. The mind's doing all this. And then becomes liberated. So both purposes have been achieved. Giving of bhoga, giving of yoga. An analogy, so there's no motive for further creation. Purusha doesn't want bhoga, or the mind doesn't want bhoga for that Purusha, and it's given that Purusha liberation. So what's left then? There's no motive for creation for that Purusha. But it doesn't tell you what is that state then, if both remain eternally omnipresent. Tricky. And we don't have time to discuss that in this workshop. But Advaita Vedanta is going to step in and say, that makes no sense at all. And the Vedanta is going to say, at that point, Purusha, again, rhetorically speaking, realizes that not just that everything was Prakriti, but that there never was a Prakriti in the first place. But Advaita Vedanta takes that step. Samkhya doesn't. Samkhya Prakriti is real. And the Vaishnavas are going to say, you've all missed the boat. There's Ishvara. There's an Ishvara, and ultimately the goal of it all is for Purusha to have a relationship with Ishvara. It turns its consciousness away from Prakriti and absorbs its consciousness in a distinct Ishvara, eternally distinct, and they have an eternal relationship of love and devotion. And that's where Vaishnavas are going to take it, and we'll save that for another day. An analogy is the debtor and the creditor, between whom a contact exists, right? So you have a debitor and a creditor, and a contract, I think he means to say, exists for receiving loan. But after the repayment of the loan, there's no money transaction between them. Even if their contact continues, you don't have a relationship. Maybe your lender lives next door. Once you repay the debt, it's still there, but you don't have a relationship. That's the metaphor he's using here. 67, virtue and the rest having ceased to function as causes because of the attainment of perfect knowledge, the spirit remains invested with the body through the force of the past impressions, like the potter's wheel that continues to whirl from the effect of the impulse previously given it to it. Do you mind if I just paraphrase the Bhasha for you? Because I want to read some Ramanuja, and I want to read my story, and then we have our kirtan. So the point is, when you attain enlightenment, does the body suddenly disappear? No. You have to burn up whatever karma was activated for that life. Your jati your bhoga. At the moment of birth, karma is activated for that birth. Now, so when you become enlightened, all your past births are destroyed. Maybe you had 10 planes in a row. Maybe you had 10 births waiting in storage. Those are destroyed because they're not activated. And future, you're not making any future births, but that which is already activated continues to be. So the fact that you become enlightened, let's say your karma is you have to live till you're 60. Your jati, your bhoga, Patanjali calls it, your ayur, your lifespan is 60. You become enlightened at 35. You still got to live out that 25 years because it's been activated. And he gives the example of a potter's wheel. You're pumping the potter's wheel and then you stop, but the energy is already invested in the potter's wheel. It's going to take time for it to slow down because you've already put the kinetic energy in it. Or like an electric fan, you pull the plug. Okay, I don't want the fan. Pull it, finished. Okay, pull it. But you've already got kinetic energy invested. That's what he's saying. So Dharma and the rest, having ceased to function as causes, they're not causing anything anymore. They're not creating fresh karma. Why? Because of the attainment of perfect knowledge. So fine, but the Purusha remains invested with the body. The body doesn't suddenly evaporate into nothing. Why? Through the force of past karma, like the potter's wheel, that continues to whirl. Why? From the effect of the impulse previously given to it. No more impulses are going in. No more karma is being made, but whatever's already gone into it, that has to burn up. Is that clear? Beautiful metaphor for why we don't suddenly disappear when we become enlightened. We have to, if we become enlightened, when we become, we all will in some birth. Okay, nice. I like that. I hope you do too. And it's a famous metaphor. Everybody borrows it. Everyone borrows it. 204, 68. When Prakriti, as her object is accomplished, she's done her job, Bhoga Apavarga, has ceased to be active, and when separation from the body has taken place, the spirit, the Purusha, attains deliverance that is both absolute and final. Kaivalya. Okay? Very short commentary of what nature is liberation. This is now explained. All right, page 203. On account of the destruction of all the previous impressions generated by Dharma and the rest, all the samskaras, all burnt by jnana. Krishna in the Gita calls the fire of jnana, burns all the samskaras. After obtaining the separation from body, right after that final birth, you have to finish up that birth. When you get to be 60, and you're karmically, that's the end of your life, that at that point, you leave your body after obtaining the separation from body, the purpose being fulfilled, the cessation of Prakriti being there. What happens now? Purusha acquires liberation. Absolute and final. Kaivalya. Unimpeded. Nothing brings it back. Unimpeded liberation. Liberation due to singleness. Kaivalya. Absorbed sva. Its own nature. Svarupa. Both certain and final liberation. At the end of that life in which enlightenment is attained. You finish up that life, whatever karma is going to come, it's going to come. Going to have a car accident, you still have your car accident. Going to inherit $1 million, still inherit $1 million, good and bad. End of that life, Kaivalya. So that's verse 68, and then we move on to 69, if we can find it at the bottom of page 205. This abstruse knowledge, why does he call it abstruse? Purusha Artha Jnanam, it doesn't say, oh, Guyam. It's not abstruse, deep, profound, Guyam. This profound knowledge leading to the attainment of the goal of Purusha, liberation, and in which are contemplate, where are we? 205, 206. On which are contemplated the origin, duration, and termination of beings has been fully expounded by the great sage. Now we finish up. And now he's saying the great sage Kapila has given this knowledge, okay? And the Bhasha is, page bottom of 204, Purusha's object is liberation. For that purpose, this profound secret, this profound intimate knowledge has been expounded by the great sage Kapila, the mighty saint. Wherein, in which knowledge, in this knowledge of Samkhya, the origin, duration, and termination, right, of the entire creation, origins, duration, termination, i.e. the manifestation, continuance, and disappearance of beings, of the products of nature, are considered and discussed. All births and deaths, and all of this is all just Prakriti churning around within herself. From which meditation, meditating on this is the path to liberation in Samkhya, not Nirodha. From meditating on all this, perfect knowledge, what is that? It's the same as the knowledge of 25 principles, is produced. This is the Bhasha of Gaudapada, now he's signing off, on the Samkhya, expounded by the sage Kapila, as the cause of liberation from transmigration, in which there are 70 verses. Well, no, there's not. It's 72. What happened to him? He all these numbers, and he messes up. He messes up at the end. He gets 2 of them wrong. There's 72. He probably got sick of all the numbers himself, right? He's like, oh my God, how many is it? 70. All right, it's 70. And then his disciples say, Maharaj, wait, there's 2 more. He said, all right, put 2 on the end. Go on then. Okay, what are the last 2? The sage. Through compassion, right? These sages. That's why we do namaha to our gurus. Through compassion, what's he getting out of this? Kindness. It's all about freeing us from suffering. Through compassion, imparted this supreme purifying knowledge to Asuri. We don't know very much about him. His name occurs in some of the old texts. Asuri taught it to Pancha Shika, who is also elsewhere is, I think, anyway. And by him, the doctrine was elaborated, right? So remember the lineages in ancient India. Sāṃkhya lineages, all these traditions have lineages. So this knowledge, last verse, received by tradition, by lineage, parampara, sampradaya, handed down from Kapila to Asuri, Asuri to Panchashikha, and then it comes down. And the Sāṃkhya tradition will have like the papacy. If you go to Rome and you go into the Vatican, there's a list of all the popes. There's like 100 and something. It's on the wall. So, Peter, and it goes all the way down to the present pope. So as you have a papacy, a papal succession, these knowledge systems in India have their lineages. They're called paramparas, also known as sampradaya. So this knowledge, right, if you study anything with a traditional teacher, that teacher will have a teacher. And he'll have a teacher, whatever. If it's flute, if it's mridanga, Vish here, Vish, not here yet. He's going to do kirtan for us. Vish. And he's a mridanga player. When I studied mridanga in Bengal, the teacher, he knew 250 tals. This is years ago. His teacher knew 500. In one generation, half wiped out. From 500 to 2, I thought 250 is amazing. His guru knew. So in this way, he will trace his lineage, even whatever it is, drum, flute, Ayurveda, everything is handed down in these lineages, and an Orthodox teacher is very clear about the lineage. It's very important. And in traditional circles in India, people say, who's your guru? And they know everything about you. From your sacred clay or from your guru. They know everything about your lineage. And in the mundane world, they know everything about you from your family name. You're a Patel, you're an Agarwal, you're this, a Gupta, or whatever it might be, right? They know you're a Brahmin, you're from this part of India. So anyway, so this knowledge received by tradition of pupils has been compendiously set down in Arya meter. Remember the beginning, I made a mistake. I thought it was a reference to Arya, but it's a meter. It's been set down in Arya meter. That's a type of Sanskrit meter. You can look it up. It has long, short sequencing in a particular nature. It's been set down in Arya meter by Ishvara Krishna of pious disposition after having thoroughly known the established doctrine. Last verse, my friends. So the subjects which are treated in the 70 verses are indeed those of the entire science of 60 topics. He has to put a number in at the end. Exclusive of the illustrative tales. In other words, do you see what he's saying here? Here he's not including the stories of Krishna and Shiva and Ganesh. He says exclusive of the tales. This is just hardcore metaphysics listing, just the tattvas. This body of knowledge is just tattvas, no nice stories. And what else is he omitting? And omitting also the discussion of rival views. Gaudapada is introduced one or two. Some say it's time, some say it's Ishvara. So he has, but Ishvara Krishna hasn't. But normally you would. The Vedanta Sutra, the entire second chapter of 4 chapters of Vedanta Sutra, all against rival views. Patanjali has some in the 4th chapter against Buddhism, about 20 verses. Rival view, Vijnanavad Buddhism. So, and other traditions are, other schools of thought, Nyaya, Mimamsa, they're all, a hefty component is response to other schools. But he's saying, in this text, we didn't give you any stories. The Itihasa, what's the term in Sanskrit? He says, Saptayam, Krishna, Shasti Tantrika, Akhya, the Akhya. He's not giving any stories, and he's not giving he's not engaging, he's just giving you the tattvas. Exclusive of illustrative tales, and omitting also the discussion of rival views. That's it, my friends. Do we want to have 10 minutes on Ramanuja's response, or do we want to go for the story? I want to read you 12 verses from a Krishna story, otherwise my heart will dry up and wither away. Are we okay? Are you interested in what Ramanuja has to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Both.
And Vrinda, are you there, Vrinda and Vish? Maybe they'll just log on at 8. Okay, Ramanuja, in the second chapter of the Sri Bhasha, this is now Ramanuja is the lineage, when we just spoke about lineages, right? Ishvara Krishna is saying this was taught by Kapila to Asuri to Panchashikha, and it was handed down through a lineage. Okay, Vedanta has lineages. Those of you connected with the Krishnamacharya's tradition through Guruji Iyengar or Desikachar or Patabi Joyce, well, Krishnamacharya is in the Sri Vaishnava lineage. And Sri Vaishnavism is, the main figure of that is the 11th, 12th century Ramanuja. He wrote a Sri Bhasha. Bhasha is a commentary. We just read Gaudapada Bhasha. We read Gaudapada Bhasha on right, so Bhasha is a commentary, Sri Bhasha. So in chapter second pada, right, Patanjali has 4 padas, Vedanta has 4 padas. Second section of the second pada, there's a section, the topic is the refutation of the Sāṃkhya theory of pradhana as the first cause. He's not rejecting the tattvas. Vedanta doesn't accept the tattvas. There's no problem with the tattvas. What does it reject? It rejects that pradhana is the cause of everything. Vedanta says, no, Brahman is, Ishvara is. Beyond Purusha and Prakriti is Brahman. Okay? They're going to say there has to be intelligence behind it. Let's see some of the arguments. So I'm just going to jump around. In this world, this is the first sutra in this second chapter, second section. Ramanuja now. I'm not going to read the sutras because they're too dense. In this world, we see inert things like wood are not capable of producing chariots, palaces of their own accord. Pieces of wood don't just jump together and make a chariot. There needs to be intelligence, right? But only under the guidance of an intelligent agent. So the inert Prakriti by itself, without the guidance of an intelligent agent, cannot be the cause of this world of manifoldness so well designed. Do you see the argument? Nowadays, we would call this intelligent design argument. He's saying just bits of wood don't just suddenly fly together and make a chariot. There needs to be an intelligent designer to put them together. It's a bit like the clockmaker argument. That you know, who was it? Famous clockmaker argument. Anyway, so so that's Ramanuja. And then he says, okay, what causes the gunas between the creative cycles? Remember, you have creation, it lasts 14 billion years, and there's a period of latency where the gunas are latent, which means that tamas is suppressing rajas. Rajas is the what stirs, but tamas is exactly neutralizing it, so there's no stirring at all. And that goes on for 14 billion years, and there's the next cycle. Well, what triggers it? This is what Aristotle would have said the same thing. Got to be a prime mover. So here's how he puts it. Again, the tendency to create, that is to say, the initial disturbance of the equilibrium of the gunas. What triggers it? What's the trigger? If he'd have known about Big Bang, he would have said, what triggered the Big Bang? Something has triggered it. If the trigger's inside it, then it would always be triggering. It wouldn't have banged it 14 billion years ago. A trigger would always be a trigger, right? So the same argument. So the initial disturbance of the equilibrium between the cycles of the gunas, which causes them to go, something triggers which causes them to combine in various ways, is not possible without the guidance of an intelligent principle or agent. Therefore, Prakriti cannot be the first cause. Vedanta doesn't object to Prakriti and Purusha, doesn't object to the tattvas. It's saying then it's not the first cause. Brahman, Ishvara is the first cause. Right? Remember Gaudapada? Some say Ishvara is the first cause. All right? Remember that? He said, whoa, and he gives his arguments. Well, here. So now remember the milk argument? Right here. If it is said, the minute somebody says if it is said, you know it's a Purva Paksha, opposing point of view. If it be said that the Prakriti spontaneously undergoes modification like milk, Remember? Yes, do you remember? If you want to say, oh, it's just like the calf approaches the cow, they don't have to have an intelligent agent, just its nature. The cow, well, as soon as the cow, the calf comes along spontaneously, the others lactate. So if it is said that, we say, even there's intelligence, right? How so? Well, grasses change into milk when eaten by cows. The cows are intelligent. Your very argument goes against what you want it to say. You're trying to say that an inert thing can act spontaneously when in contact with something else, and you use the cow as the example, and you say, well, it's a non-intelligent thing, and it just spontaneously lactates. He said, hang on a minute, cow's not non-intelligent, it is intelligent. And because of it's intelligent, it lactates because it recognizes its calf. So your very metaphor goes against you, you Samkhya folks. Ha. Ramanuja. Right. Now, remember the blind man and the lame man? Right? Remember that? We had that some time ago. Prakriti is blind. It's got no consciousness. And Purusha can't do anything. It's just consciousness. So what happens then? You put the blind man, you put the lame man on the shoulders of the blind man. The blind man's got good legs. So blind man can walk. He's blind. And that's Prakriti. And then you put Purusha on the shoulders. Purusha can see, it can't do anything. So that was the metaphor. So he says, hang on a minute, says Ramanuja. The blind man, though he is not able to see, is yet an intelligent being. And is able to grasp the direction of the lame man, who is able to see and direct. He's saying, look, in the metaphor, Prakriti is supposed to be blind. And the layman sees. So therefore, the Prakriti is unintelligent, and Purusha is intelligent, and they make a partnership. But he's saying, in your metaphor, they're both intelligent. The layman is intelligent, but the blind man's intelligent. You can't avoid intelligence. Remember, Vedanta wants to say there's got to be intelligence. So he's going to pick aside the metaphors and say, your metaphors don't even work for what you want them. They're not doing the work you want them to do. Because in your, you want to say that there is consciousness and non-consciousness, and they get on there one, and they work together like the blind and the lame. Well, wait a minute. In your metaphor of the blind and the lame, they're both intelligent. Doesn't work. It's going to not only does it not work, it's going to backfire on you and indicate that there has to be intelligence. Both the cow is intelligent and the lame and the blind are intelligent. Okay? And then, do you see? This is Vedanta. All right, maybe enough of that. And okay, now another thing. Remember the other example of the magnet and the iron filings? So Samkhya would say, well, you don't need any intelligence. A magnet just has the nature that it moves iron filings. It's just its nature. It just does it. And that's like, so when a Purusha comes near the Prakriti, then it just stimulates Prakriti into creation. We don't need an Ishvara. And they give the example of the magnet and the iron filings. Ramanuja say, wait a minute. A magnet has a Shakti, a power to cause movement, has magnetic force. Purusha doesn't have any force. It's just awareness. So how can Purusha, being in the vicinity of Prakriti, cause Prakriti to create? Your metaphor doesn't work. He's going to pull these metaphors apart. Again, who is going to move? He says it again in Sutra number 6. Who's going to disrupt the equilibrium of the gunas? I call it equitension. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Perfect equilibrium before creation. How is that who's going to disturb that? None is superior to the rest, he says. There's got to be something outside of that. It's got to be a mover, an agent. Okay, so these kinds of arguments, and I don't know whether you want any more. But anyway, so therefore, Vedanta doesn't object to the metaphysics of Prakriti, doesn't object to the tattvas, doesn't it object to, but it objects to but it's going to insist there needs to be an Ishvara. There needs to be an intelligent mover, stirrer, overseer. Otherwise, there's no way of explaining how creation comes to be. Wood doesn't just assemble into a chariot, so Prakriti can't just assemble itself into the universe. And Purusha is not going to be the agent because Purusha is just pure consciousness. It doesn't have any Shakti. It's not it's not exuding Shakti like a magnet does that can disrupt filings, because there's no Shakti coming out of Purusha. It's just Satchidananda. There's no Shakti there. So therefore, Vedanta would say Samkhya's schema of creation, it's not wrong, but it's incomplete. It's not wrong because, there's Prakriti and there's Purusha and there's the gunas, and they accept all of that whole metaphysics. Incomplete. Why? Because there's an Ishvara behind it, or call it Brahman, call it Ishvara. Is everybody clear about that? And then they'll take the metaphors and not only just say they don't work, they're going to say your metaphors are actually going to do the opposite of what you want them to do. They're actually going to prove our position, and they're going to disprove your position that you don't need an Ishvara. Because in your example of the cow, well, the cow's intelligent. In your example of the lame and the blind, they're both intelligent. You cannot remove intelligence from the picture of creation. Otherwise, you have no way of accounting for creation. And they would say the same thing about Big Bang. How does this bang? What is this bang? What was the trigger? That infinitesimal, whatever, that infinitely dense moment. What caused that to do whatever it did? What was the trigger of that? It has to be something outside of it. Can't be in it, because then it would always have triggered. So, okay, I want to read you a little story, and that's it. And we're not doing too bad. We're not hopelessly. We're on 7:58, and then we'll have a nice little kirtan. The story will just take 10-15 minutes. Vrinda, are you there? Vrinda. No. Do we have our kirtan, Vrinda? No, Vrinda. Vish? All right. Well, we lost them then. Well, maybe they'll join it. Maybe they're like on the dot, like they'll join us 8 o'clock. I know she has 3 little kids that are younger than 7. She says, well, I got these 3 kids. So maybe we'll get to see her kids. All right. Here's a Krishna. I'm just random. We're just changing universe now. We're going to go into no explanation, no connector, no linkage. We're just jumping universe now. Okay. We're just going to jump from one universe to another into the universe of Krishna Lila. And I have one linkage in the last verse. This is one of the, this is Ishvara. This is Ishvara of Vedanta. That Gaudapada says, no. We don't need any little Krishna stealing butter. No. Okay, we're in the 10th book of the Bhagavata Purana. I just want to read a story. I do that now. All my workshops, I read a Krishna story in that way. I feel like I give everyone a samskara of Leela, and they take it or leave it. It's none of my business. But we've done, 6 sessions of 2 hours with 12 hours of Sāṃkhya metaphysics. I think we're okay. We're okay to have a nice little 12, a few minutes of Leela. So once, 10th book, chapter 9 or so, when Balaram, Krishna's brother, and the other cowherd boys were playing, they complained to their mother Yashoda, Krishna's eaten mud. Yashoda, the mother, was concerned for his welfare. All right, we're going to read from verse 33 to 45, just so you know. Then we have kirtan. So we're going to read 12 verses of Leela, and then we'll have kirtan if Vrinda shows up. So Yashoda was concerned for Krishna's welfare and scolded Krishna, whose eyes seemed to be full of fear. Okay, he's about 3 years old or 4. So he's walking. He's very young. So his friends say to the mother Yashoda, Krishna's eaten mud. Grasping him in her hand, she said to him, "Why have you secretly eaten mud, you naughty boy? These young friends of yours are saying so, and so's your elder brother." She scolded her. She's worried about Krishna eating mud. Obviously, any mother would be. 35, Krishna says, "Mother, I didn't eat any mud. They're all spreading false accusations. If you think they're speaking the truth, then you look into my mouth yourself." He says, I didn't eat it. Look in my mouth. So then she says, "If that's the case, and open wide," she said, "Lord Hari Krishna, whose supremacy cannot be constrained. He's Ishvara. Nobody can tell him what to do. He's just playing the role of a child to delight his devotees, right? Who's Krishna, whose supremacy cannot be constrained. No one can tell him to open his mouth. But who is he then? But who is God assuming the form of a human boy for play? This is not God as creator, as the originator of the tattvas. This is Ishvara entering playfully as a little child. This is what is the exclusive quality of Krishna bhakti. There's many forms of bhakti. There's Shiva bhakti, Vishnu bhakti, Devi bhakti. Each has its own flavor. It has its own quintessential character and nature and flavor. This is the distinctive quality of Krishna bhakti. Krishna hides his majesty and appears as a delightful little child to captivate the hearts of his devotees. This Ishvara that Ramanuja is pushing back against Samkhya and saying, "Hey, you've forgotten something. Forgotten Ishvara." That same Ishvara, Ramanuja and all the Vaishnavas accept, is this Krishna here. So he opens his mouth. Yashoda saw there in his mouth the universe of moving and non-moving things, space, the cardinal directions, all the tattvas, the 25, the 16, the 11, right? The sphere of the earth with its oceans, islands, and mountains. She saw in his mouth air, fire, the moon, the stars. She saw the circle of the constellations, water, light, the wind. What are these? These are the tattvas. The sky, the evolved senses. Remember the indriyas, the mind, the subtle, the elements, the Mahabhuta. She sees everything we've read about, all the tattvas. She sees it in Krishna's mouth. The three guna qualities, the gunas themselves. She saw this universe with all of its variety, differentiated into bodies, right? 8,400,000 species, all of that in his mouth, which are the bodies, which are the repository of souls. She saw the time factor. Remember Gaudapada, some say it's time, we say it's just, she saw the time factor, nature, prakriti, and karma. Seeing Vraj, the place, Vrindavan, as well as herself, in the gaping mouth of the body of her son. She looks in and she sees the universe and she sees the planet Earth and she sees India and she sees Vrindavan, like a surrealist painting. She sees herself in there. She sees herself and Krishna in the mouth. Seeing all this in the body of her son, she was struck with bewilderment. Is this actually a dream? Is it a supernatural illusion? Or is it just a confusion of my own intelligence? Or is it in fact some inherent divine power of this child of mine? Who is he? And then she loses her love. Her love is destroyed and replaced by fear and distance and awe. She realizes this, the whole universe is in the sun, in the mouth of her son. And she starts speaking like a Vedanta philosopher and doing namaha, namaha, namaha. Therefore, I offer namaha to his feet, which are the support of this world, right? There's Ishvara behind this world. Something has to support it. Something has to sustain it. Something has to trigger it into action. From them and through their agency, from Krishna's Shakti, this world manifests. Their true nature cannot be known by the senses nor reason. You cannot know Krishna by reason. You can know that there's an Ishvara by reason. Just like Ramanuja is offering reason. He's saying that reason tells us that there must be an intelligence behind it. You cannot explain how pradhana activates and churns out the 25 purushas, 25 tattvas. Your metaphors don't work. On the contrary, they actually disprove your point. So you cannot, by inference and by reason, you can say there must be intelligence. You can't go any further than that. Anything more than that, that's the first verse of Vedanta. By reason, we can know that there's Brahman, but we don't know the nature of Brahman. Only that can only be revealed. Inference can get you to a place where you can say intelligent design. Matter in and of itself cannot explain its own creativity. There must be intelligence. Reason gets you that far, period, full stop. End of the journey for reason, can go no further. Any other information about the nature of that intelligence, Ramanuja says we know there's intelligence. What if there's two? What if it's a bunch of intelligence? What if it's a demon? That we don't. Descartes said the same thing. Descartes in Western philosophy, I don't know, maybe it's a demon. So only revelation. This is revelation. So the Bhagavata presents itself as revelation of Krishna's, Ishvara's Krishna. And then obviously Shiva Puranas does the same for Shiva, and Devi, the goddess, right? This is a Krishna. Okay. So she goes, I offer Namaha to his feet, which are the support of this world. From them and through their agency, this world manifests through Krishna's Shakti. Their true nature cannot be known by the senses, no reason. It's not reasonable to say God is blue and plays a flute. There's nothing rational about that whatsoever. What's rational about that? Reason is like, what are you talking about? Blue, play the flute. When I first went to India, I hitchhiked to India in the 70s. And by chance, I ended up in Vrindavan, the place sacred to Krishna. I was actually following Buddhism, and I was heading for a Buddhist conference in South India. And I just got off the train randomly. Of course, nothing is really random. But anyway, it was Vrindavan. And then I just got off and I walked around, and then I sort of talked to people, and they were, well, what is this place? I didn't know it was a holy place. I just got sick of the train, literally. I mean it. I got sick of the train, got off. I was kind of like a sadhu, slept under a tree, and then I sort of got up. Okay, what's this place? Oh, it's Vrindavan. What's that? Oh, Krishna's sacred to Krishna. Who's Krishna? Oh, he's God. Oh, yeah. Well, what's that then? What's that look? What does that mean? Oh, he's blue and he plays a flute. I thought, what are you talking about? Why isn't he pink and play a banjo? There's nothing rational about blue and playing a flute. So that knowledge can only be revealed. There's nothing rational about it. So she's saying here, the text is saying, the nature of Krishna cannot be known by the senses, can't see it, or by reason. They are very difficult to perceive by thought, word, deeds, or intellect. And then she starts, forgetting that she's his mum. And then she starts doing Namaha. Oh, he's my refuge, right? Pranidhana, Pranidhana. Through his illusory power, da, 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 da. So then all of a sudden that creates distance, and Krishna, of course, wants love. If the nature of God is love, well, what does that look like? What does that mean? Well, this is what it means in the Krishna tradition. So then the omnipotent Supreme Lord cast his Yoga Maya, not Maya, Yoga Maya, not Mahamaya, Yoga Maya. If we had more time, we'd explain that. Divine power. This is a Maya that causes his devotees to not realize he's God. Why? So they can be close. If you know someone's God, it blows your mind. Look at Arjuna in the 11th chapter of the Gita. When Krishna shows his Virat Rupa, he causes distance. Arjuna's freaked out. He says, please, 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 I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I offended you, or, I sat on the same couch as you. Please go back to your original form. So that creates distance. Knowledge, great majesty creates distance. So Yoga Maya covers the majesty. It's a very important term in Krishna Lila. It's used differently in Kashmir Shaivism, by the way. So he cast his Yoga Maya, divine power of illusion, a power that brings us close to God. There's a good Maya. That's why it's yoga. Yoga's good. So Yoga Maya, it's yoga, brings us close to God, but to do that, God has to cover his majesty. So she cast his Yoga Maya, power of illusion, in the form of maternal affection. Remember the bhavas. We talked about the bhavas going back to Bharat, the Natya Shastra, dramatology. Then we have Samkhya bhavas, the 8 bhavas, 4-4, dharma, adharma, jnana, ajnana. Well, bhava takes in Krishna theology and psychology, bhavas are different states of mind different types of love. Love of a parent, love of a friend, love of a gopis, the lover. We mentioned this. So her bhav is maternal. She loves Krishna as her. And what's the defining feature of maternal love? She really thinks that she needs to protect Krishna. She doesn't know he's the Lord of the universe. She thinks if I don't feed him, he'll be hungry. Whenever he's playing with the calves, he's always fretting like mothers do. Or what if he steps on a stone? What if a hornet bites him? What if there's a snake? What if picks up a sword? So that's the maternal bhav. It's love flavored with concern and the notion that the child is dependent on the parent. She's convinced he's dependent on her. So when he shows the universe, all of that, the love evaporates, finished. She's like, oh my God, just like Arjuna. In the Gita, he says, oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were cousins. I thought we were friends. I didn't know who you were. Please, please forgive me. Same thing. Oh, I thought I was his mother. He's a Lord. So then he casts that yoga maya back. Why? In the form of maternal affection over the gopi who had come to understand the truth. Immediately the gopi's memory was erased. She forgot what she'd just seen. She sat her son on her lap and returned to a previous state of mind, bhav, vatsalya, with a heart full of intense love. You want love of God? All this talk, love of God, love of God. Words, what the hell does that mean, love of God? It's just words. This is what it means in the Krishna Lila. Personal, direct relationship with Ishvara. To do that, majesty has to be concealed. You can't love something is just awesome and majestic. You can respect it. You can be awed by it. It can be wondrous. That's not love. Love is intimacy. And for there to be intimacy, you have to hide power. Just like a parent does with a child, you sit with your kid on the floor and you play, doctors and nurses, you hide your power. This is the beautiful feature of Krishna Bhakti. All this behind me, Krishna Lila. Somewhere in there, you'll see what we just read. You'll see it in one of these pictures. I should have looked for it before. This is what pervades Indian art and culture. These stories, Krishna and also Ram, obviously other stories. Right, last verse. How am I going to connect this with the Sāṃkhya Kārikās? I have a very poor linkage, and here it is, last verse. So immediately the gopi's memory was erased. She sat her son on her lap, returned to her previous state of mind with a heart full of intense love. Here's the last verse of the chapter. She considered Hari, Krishna, whose glories are sung by the three Vedas. The Upanishads, the Isha Upanishads, Shveta Ishvara, right? All about Isha, Ishvara. That Ishvara, the Vedanta talks about, that the Upanishads talks about, that Samkhya, not Gaudapada Samkhya, but other Samkhya traditions. Samkhya Yoga, here it is. She considered that Ishvara, whose glories are sung by the three Vedas, by the Upanishads, by Samkhya Yoga. That would be Patanjali. Remember Patanjali Samkhya? It's just that it takes a particular direction methodologically. Metaphysics is Samkhya, but it just has its own method within that. Number one, Patanjali is Samkhya. Number two, there were Samkhya traditions that were theistic. Kapila, who is the author, we just read, right? Kapila was the founder, and he gave to Asuri and Panchashika. Well, there are two Kapilas associated with Samkhya. One is considered to be an incarnation of Vishnu. And then there's the non-theistic Kapila, where they're the same Kapila, but two different traditions took it in two different directions, maybe. Or were there two Kapilas associated? We will never know the answer to that. But the text that I work with, this text here, the Bhagavad Purana, Kapila is an incarnation of Vishnu. Comes to establish the tattvas of Samkhya. Next time I do a workshop, maybe we'll read Samkhya in the Bhagavatam, theistic Samkhya, heavily theistic. So she considered Hari, whose glories are sung by the three Vedas, the Upanishads, Samkhya Yoga, and the Sattvata sages. She considered that Ishvara Pranidhana of Patanjali, that Ishvara of the Isha Upanishad, that Ishvara, she considered him to be her very own son. What'd you rather have? Lists of 16 and 18 and 21 or nice Leela stories? You ask yourself. That's bhakti. Now, trans-rational. It's not irrational, trans-rational. You want to know Ishvara? You can know there is an Ishvara by logic, nothing more than that. Some vague idea, oh, there's intelligence, oh, some cosmic vague, useless. But you can get that far with reason. But you want a personal relationship with Bhagavan? Well, this is what it looks like. And Shiva has his own exquisite, leelas and presences and wonderful interactions with his devotee. Devi has with hers, Kali, all of them. This is what bhakti looks like in the Indian traditions. I just wanted to throw that in at the end of the workshop because otherwise I feel like I didn't complete. Otherwise, a bunch of tattvas, who cares? Bhaktas don't even want a Svarupa Vastanam experience. They want love of God. They actually don't want a Svarupa Vastanam experience because then you're just absorbed in your own nature. No love there. So, Ananda, you can get Ananda, but not prema. Prema comes the relationship with Bhagavan. So, do we have our kirtan, folks? Brenda, where are you?
We're here.
Okay, where? How do I get you?
Crowd.
Are you one of the little windows up there?
Yes.
So how do I see you? You want me to do what we did, right? What did you tell me to do before? Give you the screen?
Sure, yeah, you can give me permission or all participants to share screen and then I can share our screen.
How do I do that? I go to share screen, right? Multiple participants can share screen. Now what? I ticked it.
I think, yeah, I'm able to do it now.
So where are you?
And our one is named Vrinda and Vish Sate.
Okay, and these are your books, right?
Yes.
But I'll just introduce you, but are you going to come on afterwards? Are we going to see you?
I'm not actually sure how do we feature you? Or, I mean, everybody can see us, I assume, in the small window, or...
I'll have to pin you, but let me introduce you. So Vrinda and Vish are two wonderful bhaktas. They were both born, their parents were Krishna bhaktas. So Vrinda, did you go to a Gurukul school?
I did, yes. I was raised exclusively in ISKCON schools, properly brainwashed until I started college.
Okay, so they went to their parents were Krishna devotees, and they had kids, and I think Vish, you were homeschooled, weren't you?
Yeah, and you were my Sanskrit
I'm going to mention that. Yes,
Harvard.
That's it. So they are wonderful souls. They were born in devotee families, and they Vrinda went to one of the Krishna movement tried to establish these Gurukul schools, which we could say a lot about, but but anyway, she survived that. And Vish, I knew when I was in Cambridge, and he was about 11 or so, and he was sitting in on our Sanskrit classes. I don't know what happened, Vish, but you lasted. You came for a few sessions, and certainly, were very capable. So they both now have dedicated their lives. A lot of the Gurukul kids, some of them disappeared. Some of them are growing marijuana in Hawaii. They're all. Some of them are turned against their upbringing. But Vish and Vrinda have remained wonderful devotees. And Vish is part of an ensemble, which is my favorite, Vish. I'm not just saying that because you're here, the Mayapuris. And I'd love for you to put in the chat maybe where, if people like your kirtan, they can they can get your CV. So Vrinda has put together this wonderful, I just found out about it yesterday, and I invited her to show her books. Vrinda and her mother have just fabulous. This is the Sita Ram story, and it's for young adults. So if any of you have, kids or young adults, and you want to sort of expose them a bit to Indian culture in a way that's not weird, this is a wonderful trilogy. I've just found out about it yesterday, and so I invited them along to do kirtan for us, but also for Vrinda to show us these books in case anybody is interested. Please support them. They are young folks, and they as I say, grown up as devotees and dedicated their life to doing kirtan. And I know Vrinda's a great dancer because I've seen her dance once. So thank you both for sparing time for us. And Vrinda, tell us a little bit about your books, and then we'll do kirtan. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. I just love this art. It's so beautiful.
So I'll start with that. It's the artwork is done by my mom, so it's a mother-daughter collaboration, and we've been working on this for about 10 years, and finally the final book is about to come out next month. So we're super excited. And of course, the Ramayana has a long history of a storytelling tradition, so I'm kind of fitting into that. It has a long, first it was an oral tradition, and then now it has a huge history of being retold, and it being retold in English is just maybe a newer phenomenon. But what I really bring to the tradition is a female-centric perspective. I do explore also the male characters' motivations and their feelings and why they do things, because Sanskrit epics can be pretty sparse when it comes to the inner lives of the characters. So I really bring that. But also my deepest motivation has been to really bring the missing voice of the feminine back into the story. And I really love to give this as an example, that scholars who have counted the original Ramayana text written by Valmiki, they have seen that Sita appears in only 10% of the text, and she's the lead heroine of the story. So I really am part of bringing Sita and even lesser known characters like Mantara and Kaikeyi, bringing them, giving them a voice, and doing it with honoring everything that's known about the tradition, but then bringing it to life in a fresh way. And then, of course, my mom's beautiful art makes it a delightful read just in and of itself. And we feel confident that people who know the Ramayana are going to get a fresh insight into it. And then, like Adwaita said, Professor Bryant so beautifully said, it's also a really nice bridge work for someone who isn't familiar with it, because it's written, in kind of the novel style. You're with the characters in real time as they go through all these, epic, fantastical things. So,
are you faithful to the original Valmiki, or are you adding narrative of your own to sort of bolster the psychology of the feminine, or are you sticking to the actual storyline and the conversations in the text itself?
Yes, thanks for that question. So, I definitely honor what's given, what Valmiki establishes about the female characters. I always use everything that's there, and then I use retrograde plotting to kind of fill up the rest of the missing bits, because there really is, so little about the female characters. So I don't know if that answers it. I as much as possible, I honor 100% what's there, and then I extrapolate from what we know about Sita. For example, it's very clear from the story itself that she was a very soft, feminine, graceful, sheltered princess. So, I don't try to bring in sort of a more feminist, oh, she was a warrior and she was strong and empowered. She was empowered in her own way, but not in the way maybe we think of empowered females today. So, I really honor what's in the original text, and then flesh it out and fill in everything that's missing. So it is a creative work, absolutely. But I hope those that know and love Valmiki Ramayana will feel that I, was faithful, or that I display fidelity to the original text.
It's so exquisite. I can't wait to get a set. So if people want it, how do they get it? Do you want to put something in the chat, like a website or an address, or how would people order the set?
Yes, you can go to my website, sitasfire.com, and I'm putting it also here in the original. I'm in the chat box here. And yeah, all the information is there. All 3 volumes are there. You can order them on Amazon, of course, and it's all there.
And the Mayapuri and the Mayapuri Kirtan, we can get that too.
I put Mayapuri's. I put it on there. Mayapuri's on Spotify and YouTube and all that. One thing I would like to say more about these books is each book. I mean, this is book 1 and 2 right here. They're wonderful, coffee table style books, and each one has over 75 watercolor paintings by Vrinda's mother, and this is just book 1 and 2. So at the end of this, we're gonna have over 200 beautiful watercolor paintings, and book 3, we're really excited about it coming out soon, and very grateful to Professor Bryant for allowing us to share a little bit about it to all of you.
Vish, I'm your servant. You guys, I just honor you. I just think you're wonderful. I just think, you came out of that Gurukul and you made your life, and you're singing and you're out there and you stayed bhaktas and you're bringing Indian culture I just honor you and Vrinda, and I'm just so happy to serve. Anything I can ever do for you, please let me know. Seriously.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's put you on the screen, and then we can have kirtan, and then Vish, if people they can get your CD. I bought like 20 of them once, about like 10 years ago, and I gave them as gifts. Remember that?
Now we throw CDs like frisbees, but our music is available on Spotify and YouTube and like that, so all the places. And Dr. Brian, I would like to I'm currently reading your Yoga Sutra, so you are doing so much for us already, because we're being nourished. And just to hear your retelling of the pastime of Yasoda and Krishna is so...
I snuck it in there. We had all the boring Sāṃkhya Kārikā. I had to sneak a little Leela in there. Yeah. Now, how do I get rid of me? Hang on. Let me get rid of me. Remove pin. Oh, there you are. Okay, wonderful. Vish, it's so nice to see you again. It's been a long time.
Did everyone... Nice to see you too, Baba. I'm loving the beard.
Yeah.
Did everyone get to see the artwork? Did you guys get to see it while we were talking? It was seen. Okay, we're getting thumbs up. Okay, so let's sing then. How long would you like us to sing for, Baba?
As long as you want, Prabhu. As long as you want. Okay. And let me say that Vish spent many, many, many years in India studying Mridanga, studying classical instrumentation. This is not hippie Hawaii kirtan. Vrinda, likewise, right? You studied with dance with traditional teachers. So these, they as kids, they grew up in doing the real thing. Did you study with Bapu in Mayapur? The Mridanga. I studied with him for 6 months. Yeah. Okay. Over to you. Thank you so much. You both look great, and you have 3 kids now, right?
Yes.
We get maybe we'll have darshan at the end of kirtan. Thank you. Over to you. I'm going to mute everybody. Can you unmute yourselves?
Yes, we'll unmute ourselves. So nice to see this wonderful Sangha, to see Balaram Chandra and Donya and other friends, and we feel like we're in good association. So
Swagatam. I'm going to hit mute all, so you have to just unmute yourselves. Ready? Because they're not going to hear anything else once I do this.
Okay, so we're going to travel from, we're going to zoom out of of Krishna's mouth. And as Mother Yasoda saw all of India, we're going to zoom to another part of the sacred land of Bharat, and we're going to travel to, in the mood of Sita and Ram, to Ayodhya Dham. So we'll sing some Sita Ram together. Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Oh, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram. Sita Ram,
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram. Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram. Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram. Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram. Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram, 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 Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Sita Ram.
Sita Ram, Sita Ram, Jaya Sita Ram.
Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedhase Raghunataya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha Sitaya Pataye Namaha Sitaya Pataye Namaha Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram
Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram
Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram
Sitaram Jaya Sitaram
Sitaram Jaya Sitaram
Sitaram Jaya
Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram 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 Sitaram
Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram
Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram
Sitaram
Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram
Sitaram Sitaram
Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram Sitaram, 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 Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jaya Sitaram. Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram. Rama, Rama, Rama.
Sita, 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 Sita.
Yay. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. Jai Sitaram. Don't let him get away with all this Ram business, Vrinda. Got to get some Sitas in there at the end. Well done.
Got that right.
Yeah, we got that. Does anybody have any, you're sick of me, you've had 12 hours of me. Does anybody have any questions for this lovely couple? You know, Vish has amazing CDs called by the Mayapuris. I don't know, that's, maybe you put out a bunch of stuff since then, Vish. That's the last thing that I have of yours. But if people want your CDs, how do they get them? Did you put something in the chat? But does anybody have any questions for Vish and Vrinda? Then unmute yourselves and please ask them anything at all about their lives, about their music, about their lovely kids that are somewhere and being babysat somewhere, perhaps by grandma.
I was just curious if you could.
Pardon?
I'm just curious if you could share about, I know that you two collaborate a great deal, and that also, Vrinda, your book project with your mother is really, collaboration is central to that. So I'm just curious about if you can speak to what collaboration looks like for you, particularly in devotional arts, like what that process is, how that, yeah, just any perspective on collaboration.
Thank you, Donia. It's so nice to see you. Nice to see your sweet face. Well, you know, my mom and I, we started this project when we were in different countries. I was studying dance in India, in South India, studying Bharatanatyam. And she was in Sweden and then in Philly. I'm from Sweden originally. So that kind of set the tone for our process. We really have, you know, done our separate crafts and then found ways to intertwine them. So we've, you know, had a lot of respect for each other's individual process. And I do feel like that relates to the bhakti process, because unfortunately there can come this mood, a cookie cutter type mood, where it's like we all got to be the same and think the same and express. It's, you know, common in, you know, sort of very religious environments where everyone, you know, needs to express bhakti in the same way and conform. And so thankfully, you know, with any form of creativity, I think for it to be powerful, it really has to come from a deep place within the heart. And that's only going to be possible if you know, if you have access to that, if you are going deep into your own heart and then bringing forth whatever, you know, is there. So I feel like my mom and I both have been very respectful of each other's crafts and then found a way to intertwine it. I don't know if that answers your question.
And then also about, just curious about how you and Vishwambar collaborate together also, and how that process is different or similar and that kind of thing. Obviously you collaborate on a family together, but your creative work and creative devotional work.
Yay, third generation, right? The third generation.
Yes.
What's is that a she or a he?
It's a boy, Cole.
What's his name?
His name is Cole.
Cole.
His name is Cole, named after the Mridanga.
Oh, wow. Well, okay, Cole. Beautiful. Jai ho, Cole.
Well, you know, Donia, with Vish and I, it's been more of an interesting process because I'm more of a shy, kind of reserved artist type person that I feel most comfortable being in my little cave and thinking and doing. So, you know, being a dancer and being on stage has always required a lot of vulnerability and courage for me. Whereas Vish is he's a lion, you know, he'll just jump on the stage and start roaring and shaking his head. And, you know, so I think it was hard for him to really understand my hesitation and my shyness. So I think our collaboration has been a lot about him pushing me on stage and just, you know, not forcing me, I want to say, encouraging me to do things. And then over the years, I think he has learned more the reasons for, you know, my artistic shyness, and we've found a way to, you know, what we like to do is find a poem or a song that we both really love and then take it from there. You know, I interpret it with dance and he interprets it with music. He's composed quite a few of my dances, and, you know, so when he's, you know, focused on his thing, then I can focus on my thing and then join together on stage. Do you want to add anything to that, or?
Any other questions?
I'm just,
yeah. Vish.
I was going to add something, but if anybody wants to share anything else, please feel free to jump in. I was just going to share that you know, we are the greatest teachers, the greatest mentors, the greatest friends really are those that bring out the best in us, that see the best in us and bring that out. And so, you know, it's sometimes it's not always easy as a couple or as, you know, or as artists, but you know, it's taken, I think, through our process of working together to see the best in each other, see the best of the art, see and act to our strengths. And you know, for Vrinda, this writing of the book was like, it's been her, it's just so natural. It's come out naturally from her. And you know, the research that she's done. And so I feel like my job is to try and push it so it gets seen in the world, you know, and of course, you know, thanks to this platform right now, we get to share this with all of you. We'd love to sing more if you guys, I don't know if you guys are done, but we could sing more.
No, as long as you want. I mean, I'm happy to hear any kirtan. I mean, you're a family man. You've got kids obviously waiting for your attention. But if you want to do a bit more kirtan, I'll linger for as long as you care to sing. You're my favorite kirtan, Wallace. Seriously. No, absolutely.
I might sit a little to the side and nurse.
Okay, you'll hear Vrinda. You may not see her, but she's here. And yeah, if you want to, and you know, yeah, we'll sing Maha Mantra together.
Okay.
Let me turn on the original sound. I don't know if you know this, Adwaita ji, but if you turn on the original sound, it says this thing. I just did it, but if it helps whenever, if you're ever like having a drone or music or anything like that while you're reading or speaking, it's a little secret that the musicians know on Zoom. So
hang on, I missed that. You'll have to email me that.
Okay, I will. I'll send it to you. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please sing wherever you are. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Sing it out wherever you are. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let's all sing it out. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, oh Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe, Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe, Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe, Radhe Radhe Radhe, Jai 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 Shri Radhe. Let's sing one time together, one last time to wrap up at least our part of this evening. I don't know, you guys may be studying Samkhya and yoga and bhakti all night long.
They're dead, they're dead, they're done. They don't want to hear any more. 12 hours of Sāṃkhya lists. This, please, give us your last bhav, your last rasa.
Let's all sing one more time from the heart, offering all of this study, all of this bhakti, all of our devotion, all of our emotion. Let us offer it all with one more Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's do one more, the second part. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Bolo Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Bolo Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Bolo Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Shah.
Radhe Shyam. Everybody, Jai Shri Shri Radhe Shyam. Thank you so much. That was such a pleasure. Will you do this again for us if we do more studies in the future? Will you join us after future svadhyayas in the future?
We would love to.
Anytime you like.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Please support this lovely couple. I want 3 sets, Brinda, 3 sets of the books. Consider, they're beautiful, beautiful products. Give them as gifts. Any young people in your life. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the Sāṃkhya Kārikās. We'll be in touch. Maybe we'll do some other workshop, maybe the Upanishads. Have a great evening. And where are you? Are you in Florida? Where are you guys?
Florida.
Oh, are you in Alachua, are you? You're in Alachua. Yes. Okay, we'll be in touch. We should stay closer in touch. It's been too long, it's been years. Thank you, everybody.
We'd love that.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great.
We'll be in touch. Jai Sri Radhe.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to close out.